The Gory Days are here to stay, the 80s horror show. Take a stroll down memory's lane, it's time to start the show. The Gory Days, the Gory Days, the Gory Days, the Gory Days.
Welcome to the Gory Days, the show where we take a stroll down memory's lane to remember our favorite horror movies from the 1980s and early 1990s. Today, we have a very special episode of the Gory Days where we're talking about responsibility. And I know how Sesame Street that sounds, but I want to make sure that this is an overarching theme today. Responsibility, and how, with great power, there must also come great responsibility, from the famous Marvel Amazing Fantasy number 15, featuring Spider-Man himself, Peter Parker's origin story, wherein Uncle Ben does not actually tell Peter, with great power comes great responsibility, but really the voice of God, Peter's mind, his inner monologue, maybe even Stan Lee himself, echoing the words, with great power must also come great responsibility. And in this world that either we've created or we've consigned to or has been thrust upon us, whatever it is, we're here, and it is being sustained. The entertainment sector is not what it once was. It is now our own. We're not at the whims of entertainment networks and these big giant companies headed by charismatic people who are basically just there to make shareholders feel comfortable. Now, individuals themselves like me and you are creating the content today in our bedrooms, in our houses, without these big giant budgets, and people are engaging with it. This is an immense power that I and other creative types in this sector are enjoying, but with great power must also come great responsibility. There are people who I feel, and we'll get into it, are taking advantage of this kind of power and using it for evil, and maybe even not for evil. Evil's the extreme. There's definitely people who are doing that, but there's also people who are doing it for sheer monetary gain at the expense of people and sometimes even children's moral character. Mike's here. Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
How's it going? Welcome to the Gory Days. Did you have a good week?
I did.
What's going on this week?
Same old.
You were talking about how you were in the market for a car.
Yeah, I'm shopping for a car.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So
I wrote some things down in my notes that I wanted to talk about that I'm realizing now I should have been a little more specific, because I have a lot of notes here, none of which have to do with the movie that we're talking about today, but the theme of responsibility might. I want to talk about that in general first, the idea that these people on YouTube and Twitter.
Coming to Tinder near you.
I don't know. I'm not on Tinder. Maybe people are using Tinder as like an entertainment source now. Crazier things have happened. But do you watch YouTube? And if you do you like any particular YouTubers?
Sure. I watch YouTube. I don't know if there's any like particular ones. I just kind of watch the trending stuff.
Oh, you do? Because there's this I'm learning every day these vast worlds that YouTubers create, these under every topic under the sun. Mm-hmm. There's science, there's history, there's personal interest, there's reviews for technology and things.
Like anything you want to do, like let's say you want to replace the battery on your phone, there's someone specifically for that model who went out through the entire tutorial.
There's how-tos, there's DIYs, there's like you name it, there's a YouTube video for it. There should be like, a new like Occam's Law razor kind of idea that if it exists, there's a YouTube video about it.
Should be the new internet rule.
Yeah, what would we call that?
There's already like, I don't know how many numbers of rules.
Because Occam's razor is on there, obviously. Coulomb's Law is someone on there, right?
I have no idea.
Which one's Coulomb's Law? I think it has to do something with positive charges. Particles or something like that, or maybe even protons. I don't know.
Yeah, that sounds right.
There's a YouTube video about this, I'm sure, that I could look up. There's a YouTube video for like folding T-shirts in a really cool, quick way.
Yeah, I have seen one of those where
it's like a Japanese.
They I think it was a Japanese thing. It was like a cutout of a cardboard cutout, and like you use this cardboard thing to fold your shirt in like 3 seconds or something like that. It was really cool.
Yeah, it is cool. So just YouTube there's a vast network of millions of things that you can watch. And so there's the informational stuff, but separate from all of these topic things where people are explaining or, maybe even doing thought experiment kind of stuff, YouTube videos that say, what would happen if the sun just suddenly went out? What would happen if, overpopulation went on and on?
Oh, have you seen those? There's the Smarter Everyday podcast. I don't know if you've seen that one now. Oh, it's this guy who's explaining different science things. I don't know if it's every day.
Like hyperbole stuff or just
like practical. He'll show you like a demonstration of something like I don't remember.
Like brushing your teeth? How normal? How every day? Like how soap interacts with dirt on your dishes?
So he went to like a tattoo parlor, and he went like how tattoos work and how tattoo removal works.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I would love to understand that and why you can't get a CAT scan or an MRI or whatever with a tattoo. I'm sure he might explain that.
Yeah, and it's the reason is you're actually putting little bits of metal into your skin.
Really?
Yeah.
That's how tattoos work? That sounds incredible. Oh, I guess that's why it's painful. Well, so that's important that YouTube has a intellectual, educational position, and maybe even social media to an extent of sharing articles and things like that. Twitter and Instagram is a great way to get attention to things like that. Then I don't know if you want to say it's like two halves, maybe it's split up into a finer pie than that, but there's an entertainment section of YouTube that is simply there it simply exists to keep us entertained, to keep us laughing, and something to watch, the alternatives to regular TV. Sometimes it's regular TV that are on YouTube that people will find clever ways. Maybe they'll flip the footage or they'll shrink it down or some way that keeps it away from FCC regulations.
Or sometimes it'll even be the actual networks putting their clips on.
Yeah, that too, to get people, like it'll show, just like a section of a really funny episode to get you to want to subscribe to whatever their streaming service is. But so yeah, that's kind of a subsection of entertainment. But the ones that I want to shed light on are the people who just make like sketch comedy, or maybe they just show, places they've done stand up and they'll have people film so that they have a reel or things like that. But the ones that I'm trying to navigate all the way to are the ones like PewDiePie and the Pauls and these adults that advertise to children, and these adults who have YouTube channels that are unapologetically just merchandising machines for these individuals who don't have to follow the same kinds of rules, laws, and regulations that have been applied to television since like the 90s or even before that.
What kind of rules specifically?
Things like that television programming and advertising has to be 80-20, that children's programming can only have 17 to 20% advertising. The rest of it has to be actual content. And I was just watching another YouTuber today talk about this. Yeah.
I'm curious, is that the same rule for like non-children's television?
That I'm not sure. Okay. I don't know. Yeah. I was only this YouTuber that I was watching was talking about his specifically Logan Paul's influence on children and how he's managed to he's been around since like he's one of the earliest YouTubers, Logan Paul. You know Logan Paul, right?
I've heard that name for sure. And same with PewDiePie.
He's an extremely controversial YouTuber that I feel honestly not very good talking about him too much. I feel like I'm giving him too much free publicity, but just I want to talk about that idea. So I'm not going to say his name anymore. I just want to use that idea of people who have this power and don't use it responsibly. It makes me sick. It makes me sick. When I sit here and I do this podcast, at no point am I thinking about like how I'm going to somehow turn this into a money-making scheme for me.
Brought to you by?
Maybe I should. Maybe that's something that's standing in my way. But frankly, I'm more concerned about the personal passion I want to get out and maybe how entertaining that is. And how the structure of the show works, less than buy my shirts and buy my clothes and buy tickets to my tours and pay to get exclusive content and things like that, when really what he's doing. So you said you don't really know Logan Paul. I didn't really know any of this either. So he makes a lot of merchandise. He's made he bragged that he made $50 million last year, which I'm sure a huge chunk of that was merchandise, and a lot of it is advertising. I'll get to that in a second, but what the YouTuber that I was watching, and I wish I could remember the name of the channel, was Nerd something. NC, I think was like the acronym, but this guy essentially takes clip art off of the internet and removes parts of it or combines it with other clip art, simply like superimposes his signature or things on top of it and sells that. And tells children to buy it over and over again in videos and in music videos, tells children to tell their parents to buy it, which apparently is 100% illegal in like TV advertising. And the YouTube landscape, the laws are still so new and just can't catch up. I don't know. That makes me sick. You have no feelings on this.
Well, I know I get what you're saying, but you know.
Do you have any empathy or sympathy for the kids?
I do.
Like,
yeah.
what does this make you? This made me angry when I heard this. That this guy, he makes these videos that are titled "Don't watch this with your parents," where he and a girl that there's this ongoing thing where there's this other woman that isn't his real life girlfriend. It's just for the YouTube channel, and he'll do all these things. So it's like there's a video called "Don't watch this with your parents," where it's like I don't know what's going on. He's basically just like dry humping his girlfriend and like stripping her and stuff. And it's like, he's gone on record many times saying, oh, my audience is, between like 8 and 16, I would say. So I try to aim toward, younger audiences and stuff. He openly will bring fame-hungry parents, children's on. Like the parents will agree to have their children on his YouTube page wearing their merch so he can like scream at them or walk around to Walmart acting like it's his own kid and like just being an absolute terror to everyone around him. It's the worst, and it makes
I haven't seen any of this, by the way.
It makes me so mad. Like there are prisoners actively starving in our prisons this week. Have you heard about this as well?
No.
I don't know what this podcast is turning into, but I am fired up this week. There has been a lot going on. There was an ER actress that got shot and killed in her home. This actress from ER, I forget her name, Marissa Montega, I think, or something like that. She hasn't been on TV in a while. She has a history of mental illness. Her landlady calls the police to check on her because she hasn't, just for a welfare check. The police do this. They go to her home. They talk to her for an hour and a half, during which they determine she's not mentally healthy. She shouldn't be here by herself. At which point, an hour and a half of this conversation, she grabs a BB gun, aims it at the police, who shoot and kill her. Wow. She's dead. She's dead because the LAPD are woefully unprepared to deal with the mentally ill. God, and so there's that. There's the prisoners. Prisoners are striking. In prison, are you aware, listeners and Mike, that in prison you have to have a job? That when you're in prison, you still have to pay for things.
Or I don't know if it's food, but like I know you're.
No, food I'm pretty sure is free. I think,
like,
but there's
shaving cream.
But like
stuff,
a soda for food, like
okay,
with food, and extra things.
Gotcha.
Shoes for the bathroom, cigarettes, paper and pencil, just like things that would keep a person from going insane in prison are and these things are like $12 for a piece of paper for a pad of paper.
Oh, wow.
And these jobs that they make are the jobs that they do
yeah.
2 cents an hour.
Wow.
And so there's this documentary on Netflix right now called 13th that discusses how this is basically modern day slavery. It isn't basically. It's 100% protected slavery. It's in the Constitution. The 13th Amendment says no person should ever, I'm paraphrasing, but it's like no one should ever be should be subjected to indentured servitude, ever. And there's a clause, except for capital punishment, or for as punishment for a crime.
Right.
So with that clause, anyone can be a criminal. Like you can use that to any.
What I really don't like is we're privatizing these prisons. So
That's the worst part of it all. That's why this is able to continue like this, because prisons are paid to keep prisoners in. They don't get as much money if their prisons aren't full. And so they can fabricate all kinds of things like monumentous bails for people that are basically to keep poor people from being able to get out of prison. There's like standard prison sentencing that judges have no say in. It's like, if you do this, then boom, without any trial. Minimum sentencing.
Yeah.
It's absolutely insane. So I feel like I got a little off topic off of the responsibility, but no, not in any way at all. All of these people, there are so many people with so much power and no responsibility to use it but for themselves and for their friends and for their gain. And so this guy on YouTube has a mansion. He has a mansion. He lives in Beverly Hills. He lives next door to other people who hate him because he's this fake new money that doesn't even appreciate what it has and basically just uses it for his own vlogging channel and all of these things. So it's something else that I think is interesting, is that this apparently in the real world, you can be as shitty as you want to poor people, be as crappy as you want, lie to them, steal from them, do whatever you want until you're blue in the face. But if you dare try to do the same stuff to rich people, that's when it's going to be a problem. That's when it's a problem. It's not until Bernie Madoff starts stealing from other rich people that suddenly, attention starts getting shown on this. It isn't until what was it? There was a very recent case about a guy who was being it's a medical health insurance issue where this guy went in for a procedure, an emergency procedure for like his heart, a heart attack, and his bill was like $86,000 out of pocket, like out of after everything, and only because it got media coverage.
I think I saw that on Reddit. And then they were like, it's $800.
Yeah, and so it's like, what kind of chance do we stand when they're literally just playing the, well, you can't argue with us, what are you going to do card? It makes me angry. It makes me post things on Facebook in a way that I usually don't. It makes you want to join groups, This is the kind of stuff that gets me fired up. So, yeah. What you're looking at me with like this doe in the headlights look, like, when's he gonna get to?
I thought.
I'm sure everyone else is thinking about it. Fine, yeah. So great power comes great responsibility, and I can't think of any greater power than the ability to tell the future. The movie we're talking about today is Stephen King's The Dead Zone, and it features spoilers. There's spoilers in every episode of the show, but basically the main character of this story has more power than I could ever think of. He has the ability to tell a person's future just by touching them. Like, that's a huge power. That would change the world, don't you think?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And a huge burden at first. He doesn't want this, which is great.
Well, that's what I think about, is like, put it in anyone, like, I was talking to a friend, Derek was telling me that if in this real world, if somebody had that, they would probably use it to be a health insurance salesman. They would shake someone's hand and they would go, "Oh, well, they're going to die." So it's like, "Oh, your premium is $18,000," and they go, "What? That's crazy." And you're like, "All right, goodbye." Meanwhile, someone else comes in, they're going to live to 92 of old age, and you're like, "Your premiums are $200 a month." And they're like, "Wow, it's the lowest in town." And they paid for the next 70 years or something.
Pretty slick,
because that's what one would do. No one would think like, oh, I have to be a superhero with this. And honestly, the way it happens, it kind of just like falls into his lap. I don't know if he would have like really flown around the world and become a superhero. Kind of like the TV show turns into, but yeah.
I mean, I like that he just wanted his life back. He was I guess we should go into the...
Well, yeah, he's a reluctant superhero.
Right, the reluctant hero.
Yeah.
Common theme.
So, The Dead Zone by not The Dead Zone by Stephen King, but Stephen King's The Dead Zone was released on Friday, October 21st of 1983.
What's the difference? So you said like...
So to say Stephen King's The Dead Zone, is a way to get audiences in. You know, when you say Stephen King's Children of the Corn, like last week's, or Stephen King's Graveyard Shift, that suddenly brings people in regardless of what the thing even is. So this film is called Stephen King's The Dead Zone. If you were to call it The Dead Zone by Stephen King, then suddenly it's like, did he direct it?
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah. So if anything,
it reminds me a little of like whenever you see Tom Clancy's like Rainbow Six or whatever, or any book like that, Tom Clancy didn't write it.
Yeah, or the games. Like, he didn't make the game Splinter Cell, but he's going to have his name on everything because it's based on his IP, his intellectual property. Yeah, so if anything, this would be Stephen King's The Dead Zone by David Cronenberg, if you wanted to go into that. Director David Cronenberg, who I love from all kinds, like, he's the master of body horror. He did Videodrome, he did, The Fly. Yeah, I just love that slow burn body horror that's honestly non-existent in this movie. And it's kind of, I thought it was really interesting to see David Cronenberg kind of spread his wings in more of just like a thematic, dramatic sense, less than a,
horror, classic horror.
Like rising suspense to some kind of horrific climax visually. This was more of a climax, emotionally. So directed by David Cronenberg and produced by Deborah Hill. It's based on, obviously it's based on the book, The Dead Zone, written by Stephen King, but adapted into a screenplay by Jeffrey Baum. 1983. It had already been a pretty good couple of years for Stephen King. Some previous film adaptations of his were Carrie in 1976, The Shining in 1980, Creepshow from 1982, Cujo of the same year of August 12th, 1983, and Christine in December of 1983. So 2 months after this, Christine came out.
Popular.
Yes, and 2 months, October. This would have been about 2 months after Cujo, and in 2 months, Christine. So he's got a pretty good Stephen King. So based on the Stephen King novel from 1979 of the same name, I was surprised to find out this was the first book of Stephen King's to reach the #1 on the bestseller list.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he's gone on record saying it's probably one of his most successful books ever, with a total of 428 pages. So nice and concise, much smaller than It or some of his more cocaine-induced endeavors. This one is much tighter and obviously much more well-received, enough so that Lorimar Film Entertainment began developing the Dead Zone film adaptation, but producer Carol Baum gave the book to screenwriter Jeffrey Baum and asked him to write a screenplay. Lorimar eventually closed its film division after a bunch of box office failures, and soon after, producer Dino De Laurentiis bought the rights to the Dead Zone. Dino De Laurentiis has come up on this podcast before. He's done, like, almost every great 80s horror movie that came out at the time. And we'll probably talk a lot more about him on later shows. But yeah, seminal 80s horror producer Dino De Laurentiis. So it is 1983. The movies that are in theaters right now are The Right Stuff, directed by Philip Kaufman. And at home, we're watching Creepshow, Flashdance, The Secret of Nim, Risky Business, and Twilight Zone the Movie, another great series of films. And on the radio, we'd probably be listening to Total Eclipse of the Heart by Bonnie Tyler and Karma Chameleon by Culture Club. I love that song. Cronenberg, Baum, and producer Deborah Hill had script meetings to revise the screenplay page by page. And King is reported to have told Cronenberg that the changes the director and Baum made to the story, quote, improved and intensified the power of the narrative.
Oh, wow.
Unquote,
okay.
Which is always great.
This is normally it's like, oh, you ruined my work. But this is like, yeah, you made it better. That's awesome.
I feel like that was the case with Clive Barker up until he got his hands on Hellraiser. But Stephen King historically has just been Hollywood's golden goose.
Yeah.
Everyone loves Stephen King.
Right.
And there's something about just the way he writes is so accessible and apparently easy to translate to screen.
And he's got so many titles now. It's like...
And they're not stopping.
Yep.
He keeps making more and more and more, and they keep remaking his stuff. So even if they run out of things, yeah.
I think his books are very visual. Like, they're easy to... Maybe, I shouldn't say easy, but when you do translate them to the screen, there's a lot going on in most of them. Because a lot of them are horror movies.
But they all come from a really grounded, emotional place of relatability, I feel like.
Well, I wouldn't say all of them.
Oh, which ones would you not lump that in?
I don't know. We've had some...
Yeah, which specifically? I would say Graveyard Shift.
Yeah. I mean, maybe... Yeah, I mean, it's a short story, so you can't really have the same
Yeah.
depth of character in that one.
Well, I'm just going to go through these marketing taglines and then we'll barrel right through the synopsis. Or rather, the recap. So I like these taglines. He can see the future, but can he escape it?
Dum dum dum.
And in his mind, he has the power to see the future. In his hands, he has the power to change it. Which kind of reflects one of the silliest moments of the movie, but it kind of has to happen. Did you ever watch the Dead Zone TV show?
No.
Yeah,
I
this
didn't.
inspired a television series of the same name in the early 2000s starring Anthony Michael Hall. My mom watched a lot of that show, The Dead Zone, so I remember like seeing that a lot.
Was it like the life of Johnny that we're going through?
No,
or is this
no.
completely-
I guess if anything, it would have to take place somewhere in the middle of this story, considering you know how this ends. But as far as it might be unrelated, I don't know. But I mean, to like the main story.
was Johnny not even a character in this?
No, it's Johnny, but it's
Okay.
just like it's like him going, you know, town to town, person to person. It's like a different person every episode, and him trying to stop, you know, something from happening or make sure something happens. It's something like, do you watch a lot of time travel? Like, have you ingested a lot of time travel stories to notice the trope of people? Inevitably, when you try to stop something, it's the thing that keeps it
Like,
that
we're
makes it
talking about,
happen.
Like, let's say Star Wars, where they, he's trying to prevent Padma's death. Or,
Exactly.
and that's exactly what he does by trying to stop it. He sets off emotions.
Or by trying to make sure. I'm trying to think, like, is there something like, oh, we have to make sure this happens, and by them like trying so hard to make sure it happens, it doesn't. I don't know, but
Maybe like Macbeth? No.
or maybe Terminator. I think the whole
Terminator.
thing is them trying to make sure that Skynet doesn't happen and that John Connor dies. They keep sending Terminators into the past to make sure John Connor dies, and if all they do is make him stronger and more resilient until he's Christian Bale and able to take down everything. I never saw that Transformers, the one where it was in the future with Christian Bale and it supposedly like tied everything together. Was it Genesis or was it something else?
I have a confession to make. I've never seen any of the Transformers.
We're not talking about Transformer. We're talking about Terminator. Have you seen the Terminator?
But you said Transformers.
Oh, did I a second ago? Oh, I'm sorry. I meant Terminator.
I have seen the second one.
Terminator
but it's been
Genesis.
a long time.
Yeah, that's the best one.
it's really
With the
good.
liquid metal guy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so there's some creepy moments in that. I love that. So yeah, that's everything I think I wanted to talk about before we get into the recap. So let's see. I got a little synopsis here. First, the one sentence. A man awakens from a coma to discover he has a psychic ability. That's enough. So now we're going to talk about our analysis. No, I'm kidding. We got some more in here. There's another synopsis here from 2014's AV Club.
And how many thumbs would you give?
So Nick Shager of AV Club wrote in 2014 this nice little synopsis. Trimming King's source material down to its lean essence and benefiting from the lack of his imaginative monsters, which never properly translate to the screen, the film concerns Maine school teacher Johnny Smith, played by Christopher Walken,
Christopher Walken's baby.
who turns down an offer to stay the night with his girlfriend Sarah, Brooke Adams, subsequently gets into a traffic accident and awakens from a coma 5 years later with the gift of second sight. Far from a blessing, however, the power proves to be a damnable curse, turning Johnny into a freak show whose time and attention is coveted by many, but only for their own selfish ends. As the man's vision expands, his life shrinks down to nothing, an isolated existence which Cronenberg depicts through direction that routinely lingers on the empty silences between words and the distant whooshing of wintry New England wind. Thought that was a nice poetic way that brings in the director and everything into it. So this movie has widely been broken down as a triptych. Do you know what a triptych is?
Don't.
In a piece of art, be it a depiction like paint or music or even film, a triptych is three. It could be 3 paintings, 3 albums, 3 stories.
Trilogy.
A trilogy, would be a triptych. I think it refers to, I guess, if the trilogy is, a macro one story, then it's a triptych, 1, 2, 3. So this is broken down into 1, 2, 3. The first part of the triptych being him getting his powers. The accident, Johnny Smith going into a coma, waking up 5 years later and discovering that he has these crazy powers. The second part of the triptych would be him helping the police find the Castle Rock killer, Frank Dodd, and that little vignette. And the third and final one is Johnny deciding to take down Governor Stilson and that whole political decision at the end, which
I would say part of 2 is like him being a tutor and going back to his mostly reclusive life.
Oh, yeah, I would agree. I would agree that that's kind of like why the police come to him. So, yeah, let's break it down. Let's go triptych, or I don't know what you would call it. Let's go tick by tick of the trip. So, tick number 1. Johnny Smith is a English teacher or like a poetry teacher. He's reading the Raven, and it's so funny. Anytime a poem is being read in a movie, it's always the Raven. The Edgar Allan Poe story.
And Christopher Walken's reading anything is amazing.
He looks so ridiculous as the teacher. He's got like his
nevermore.
So anyway, he's a school teacher. He's boyfriends with this. Boyfriend and girlfriend. He's dating Brooke Shields, Brooke Adams.
Who's Sarah in this movie. She's also a teacher, and they're kind of in love.
So they go to an amusement park, and they're on a roller coaster, and Johnny gets a headache, and that's, ultimately exacerbates to, no, I don't want to go home with you. I'm just going to go
He's a classic
back
guy.
home. He's really nice, honestly. He's like, no, I'm not going to, I've got a headache. I got to go. And he gets in a terrible car accident. He like T-bones a gas truck or something. What was it? Did you see?
It was some liquid that was spilling. Was it milk? No, you wouldn't put milk in a thing like that.
Maybe. I don't know. But the point is that he crashes, and
because it looked a little white on screen, but I'm sure it was like oil or whatever.
Maybe. So he crashes, and he wakes up in a hospital. But oh my God, it's been 5 years. 5 years of his life is completely gone, and I would be freaking out. He seems like, I guess he's. It's been 5 years. He's probably atrophied a little bit, so I'm sure he's weak. But
it seems like he remembers everything that happened
like the moment, and then just this 5-year gap. He still thinks Sarah's waiting for him. He still thinks his mom is alive, or at least healthy.
This is one of the only goofs I saw in the movie, is that as soon as he wakes up, the doctor is like right there.
Oh, is she?
Yeah. The doctor is right there, and his parents are right outside. Like they knew he was going to wake up.
Today was the day. Like they were going to be there. So the first thing that he realizes is up is when he grabs the nurse's hand. The nurse is like tucking him in or something, or maybe changing his blood. I don't remember, but he grabs her hand, and he's like transported to this burning room. This room that's burning.
It's a really cool effect.
It's really cool because
burning thing right next to him.
It keeps flashing back. Yeah. And there was some fun trivia. The like sweat on his head was flame retardant, like goo, to make sure they didn't catch on fire. But it ended up looking really good, so they kept it the way it looked. Like it looks like sweat. Like what's going on?
I thought it was sweat.
And I love that. I don't know if it's like part of his powers to like know what to say too, but he's able to say like, Amy, like, go, your daughter. She's like.
So I can understand like that he sees this picture, but he like knows that this is her daughter.
He knows exactly where she is. He knows it's her daughter. He knows it's happening right this moment.
He knows the timeline.
So it's like not quite the future. Yeah. So I didn't know how to interpret this. If it was like his powers, like kind of like.
Maybe part of his powers is to know when it's happening.
Yeah, because it seems like I don't know, we'll get into like the weirdness of his powers, because at some point it really seems like they're completely centered around mortality. Like he can't see anything unless it has to do with death. But then other times it's weird, like especially when he touches Mrs. Dodd, Frank Dodd's mom. But we meet his doctor. Dr. Sam Wyzak, played by the great Herbert Lom, who basically when he gets touched, when Johnny touches him, he sees. It's so weird. Like this is what I mean. At one point we're talking about he can only see people's deaths, but in this one he sees way back to World War II, and he can see the doctor. Yeah, what does he see?
Yeah, he sees like there's first off really cool effects. They had Panzers on set. I'm sure
that cost tanks.
Sure that cost quite a bit. And he sees a scene where the doctor is being separated from his mother, and he's getting taken away to like some safety place.
Yeah, it's one of those scenes where the mom has her son, and she's running toward like a cart that's getting out of town, and there's no room on them for the mom, but there is for the boy.
puts the baby. Or
she sacrifices
boy
herself.
Right.
She sacrifices herself for her son, living beyond herself. With her power comes a great responsibility. So the doctor went the rest of his life believing that she sacrificed herself and she died. But Johnny is able to somehow know. I don't really know how that's clear with the vision that we see.
We don't see it.
Yeah, he must see something else that makes it clear that she's still alive.
Yep.
And the doctor's like, no, you're crazy. But then, in the privacy of his office or his home, he calls her and she answers and he doesn't talk to her. And later the doctor tells Johnny, you were right.
Yeah.
I called her. And Johnny's like, what did you say? Like, don't you want to get to know her? And he's like, no, because
it wasn't meant to be.
It wasn't meant to be. And I feel like that's another really important thing is the doctor then has great power in that moment to force himself back into a life that he didn't even know existed. And is that really his place? He made peace with it a long time ago.
Yeah.
And like to basically have your mother come back to life and then eventually see her die and rebury her again, like, was it worth?
Right. And this is like, he must have been, I don't know, in his early teens or maybe even younger than that. And the
Probably
doctor's
younger.
like, I don't know, this is maybe in his 60s or so.
Yeah.
So it's like 50 years he hasn't seen his mom.
And he probably came to terms with it many times over that time. So yeah.
And he kind of, like I said, like he kind of understood that this was supernatural and he should avoid it. He's like, no, this.
But this is like a great moment that I want to focus on is the emotional core of this, that we're talking about a guy with psychic powers, and I feel like in this day and age that would be the focus of it. It's like, whoa, he's a psychic and he's able to do all of this crazy stuff, and let's get a montage of him helping people in like crazy ways. But here it is like that's barely the important part here. The important part is a son reconciling that his mother is still alive and deciding not to contact her.
Yep.
Or not to, and I feel like that's what carries this. And so, this is a great scene. This is a great moment.
There are no small characters. Everyone has like a depth to it.
Yeah, the doctor is a great actor, and that's
absolutely.
a big thing in Cronenberg's style. He usually, in past films like Videodrome with James Woods, he'll focus a lot on one character, and they'll be like a standout performance. Everyone else will kind of just like fall by the wayside. But the great James Woods. This one, every single person, even like the dad Roger or whatever, like every single person holds their own. They're all great actors in their own right. So obviously media coverage starts happening around this guy, and he eventually has a press conference. I don't remember if it's at his I don't remember who sets it up, but
it seems like the doctor kind of set it up.
But the doctor's also saying like, you don't have to answer this, and you don't have to do this if you don't want to. So the point is that people are finally getting like their questions. They're going like, "What? You're a liar. This can't be real." One reporter is super dubious, and he gets touched. Johnny, he's like,
he's trying to like prove him wrong or something like that. He's trying to.
It makes me think of those. Like, do you remember those psychics like on like John Edwards and things like that, who would go on TV and talk
disprove
about like I hear someone in this section of the audience with a family member whose name starts with a G or has a G in it. It's like, I swear.
How does he know this?
I swear I could like just do it like with a person, and it's like it's about using like just suggestion and the most
what people react to.
Yeah, the just broadest things possible that people couldn't say no to. Like, I someone in here enjoyed teaching. It's like, my aunt enjoyed teaching me my ABCs. That's insane. Kinds of stuff. So it's kind of got that air to it, because when the reporter goes up, he's like, let's see if you can tell me. And he touches his hand, and immediately he's like, you want to know why your sister killed herself? And he's instantly like,
right. He wants to pull back, but Johnny keeps holding his hand and tells like a little bit more of that, and he pulls away. And
it creeps him out. As it would creep anybody out. And I feel like that news coverage is what eventually
sparks everything.
Gets a lot of people coming to him. And it's something that's not. I love that it's not like beating you over the head that like, you can if you read someone's mind, it's going to make you weaker and you might die from it. It's never just like outright told, these are the rules. You have 6 chances, and once you get to the 6th, you're dead, like kind of thing. It was just like Christopher Walken does a great way of portraying that each time he gets weaker, and it really takes a lot out of him.
And he describes it, I think, to Sarah. It says like, or maybe it's his dad, that each time it feels like he's dying a little bit. is what he uses to say that. So
Yeah. So after the reporter and that whole thing, you mentioned his dad. His mom used to be, I assume healthy, but now this 5-year coma, she's on her deathbed.
Yeah.
And it's really sad, but he's there like just moments before
I think it was like 12 days right after he came out of the coma.
So he like touches her hand and like we don't see what the vision is, but I assume it's just the near future, like seconds, because he goes down and even he's like kind of surprised how sudden it was. And it's just, yeah. I don't know. Have you ever been near someone when they like during their death rattle?
No.
Yeah,
No.
it's not. I don't know. It's not fun. But that's when he goes home and he talks to his dad, who admits he's like not much help, and he really isn't. But hey, he's his dad, and
it's like, I wish your mom was here. She would have told you.
She would have known how to talk about this batshit crazy thing that's happening to you and has never happened to anyone, and probably will never happen to anyone again.
You're a freak, Johnny.
It's if this was in the internet, like if they remade this movie like today and his story went viral, it would have been such a bigger problem. Like he's able to move like to the next
small
town
town,
and no one bothers him anymore. It would be such a problem of people just like throwing themselves at him, forcibly touching him, which I assume he can't control.
Yeah. So he moves to this other small town to sort of stay away from this all this. Well, actually, before that,
I think
there's a killer on the loose.
Yeah, so because of this media coverage and stuff, he's just sitting at home with his dad. He's trying to enjoy life and just get basically his life started again because Sarah he ran into. She's married.
She's married. She's got a kid.
She's got a baby in those 5 years.
Yeah.
She turned around quick.
Although, to be fair, the baby was only 10 months.
Oh, is it? Oh,
so
okay.
Okay.
Yeah. That's true. I guess it's not that old. That's always a weird thing in movies is like babies look way older than
because
they
you can't have
say.
a 10-month.
Like in the snow. Right. That's the other thing is like this is all. It looks like it's filmed on location where it looks like actually really frigid out. But yeah, like he finds out that Sarah isn't there for him anymore, and she seems really heartbroken about it. Like in the same way that the doctor made peace with his mom being dead, she's made peace with that. He's never going to wake up. He's not going to come back. And now that he is, she doesn't know what to do with herself. Kind of. She's like, I'm entangled in this new life, and now the love of my life is back.
Right.
Yeah.
And she still loves her husband, and she's like, Johnny, you would have liked him, or you would like him. So it's kind of. Yeah, what are you going to do?
Again, the movie about a psychic with psychic powers, the real emotional nugget is the fact that he was gone. Yeah. And that this complicated love triangle, I guess a love triangle would imply that the other two people are also in love? Yeah. No, but...
it's not a triangle. It's a line with maybe another line.
I think like for a love triangle to be an actual triangle, there have to be 3 people involved. 2 people have to love the one person, and the 2 people who love the person have to like be like, brother and sister or like brothers
have a relationship.
They have to have a relationship that makes them both one and the same person even worse than just being like, hey, you like her? I don't even know you. So I guess the love triangle there is that I guess there isn't a love triangle.
It's a love peak.
Yeah, it's a love it's a love peak. Anyway, so that is when Tom Skerritt enters the movie. He's the sheriff. He's Sheriff George Bannerman, who tells him, listen, we need your help. There's this guy who's been going around killing...
The Castle Rock
Killer. So that's fun. This movie takes place in the fictional town of Castle Rock, Maine. Listeners might recognize the name from Cujo and other stories. Needful Things and other stuff. But...
And the Amazon
That's
special.
What I'm saying. Most people would probably remember from the Amazon TV show that's on Amazon Studios show that's on right now, Castle Rock, that takes place in the same town. And in fact, in the show, there are references to the Castle Rock Killer and things like that. Cujo features Frank Dodd as a ghost. It takes place after the events of this movie, and wow, Siri has been listening to me this whole time. Let's see what she got. Oh, Siri, you're creating dead air. You're killing me.
Come on,
all right,
Siri.
whatever. If she decides to stop being a bee. Anyway. So yeah, in Cujo, it's if Frank Dodd is in it, but he's like a ghost. He's the spirit that's haunting like this one particular kid. It's really freaky, and it's kind of implied that the spirit of Frank Dodd is kind of in Cujo too, and it's like brought out by the rabies.
Does he look kind of like the actor who played him in this movie, or is it not related?
What do you mean? Like in the book as he's described?
Oh, I thought this was on the Castle Rock show.
Oh no, he's not in the show.
Okay.
The idea is that this movie took place in actual 1983, and so the Castle Rock killer was killed in 1983, and it's just everyone still talks about it, and still everyone's like, oh, do you remember that Castle Rock killer? Well, this Shawshank is in the same Castle Rock town, and everybody there works at Shawshank. So yeah, Frank Dodd is, well, we don't know it. Sorry, it's the Castle Rock killer. We don't know who the Castle Rock killer is. It's this person going around killing women, young women.
See Sheriff, what's his name, Bannerman?
Sheriff Bannerman, played by Tom
his
Skerritt.
deputy show up and
his deputy Dodd.
Right.
Yeah.
Show up at this house, and his deputy is like, "Are you sure this guy's gonna do what you're looking for?" It's like, it's worth a shot.
I don't know if this comes from real world things. I don't know if there's any record of police actually turning to psychics to.
I think there might be.
If it is, I'm sure any person that was convicted of anything based on a psychic has been released or has to be, because that can't be admissible.
No, I don't think it's admissible, but maybe like it gives them a tip or something like that to like.
But it's based on nothing.
Yeah,
it's based on fake.
right.
So like I could make something up as long as I don't like my neighbor. I'll say I'm a psychic and say, oh yeah, they did it. Like,
probable cause right there.
Well, yeah, seriously, like it's all under a person's like what is it? Agenda, and agendas, are people. So yeah, I don't know if this is based on anything, but Sheriff Bannerman is at wit's end, and he's like, I don't have any other options. It's worth a shot. So yeah, they petitioned the local psychic, Johnny Smith, to help them find the guy. And so they do what any normal person would do. They bring this nobody to a scene of the crime to touch the bodies.
Well, at first he's like, I want nothing to do with this for a long time, and it's only until
his dad convinces him, right?
That, and he watches something in the news for like there's another murder like just nearby, and then he's like, okay. And then he calls
makes
the
him
sheriff.
realize like how the power and responsibility that he has, that wow, the police came to me, I told them no, it's still happening, and now the more it happens, the more it's kind of on me because I have the power and I said no.
Right.
And so it's like these deaths are kind of my fault now.
Yeah, he could have prevented them.
In a similar way that Spider-Man kind of internalizes every single thing that's ever happened to him ever since he killed Uncle Ben, that everything is under his purview.
Killed Uncle Ben.
He considers it. He considers it that it was his actions that led to Uncle Ben being killed. And so, yeah, Spider-Man, maybe that'll be on a different podcast, but he has like a clinical guilt problem with everything. And it's actually played to pretty comedic effect in some comics. Like there's Marvel Zombies where the entire world has turned into zombies, and the only survivors are Marvel superheroes. And so the idea is that whenever they're hungry, they're absolute just mindless monsters. But after they've eaten, they are basically their normal superhero selves with all the knowledge that they've killed the entire planet and eaten them all. So Spider-Man is an absolute wreck, and he just can never be consoled until he's starving, and then he's a monster, and as soon as he's done eating, he's like, no, what have I done? Oh, I'm a monster. It's really funny. And like no one else can stand him because of like how like, oh my god, every time with this guy. So anyway, Johnny decides to help the police. Long story short, he touches one of the bodies and finds that it was indeed Deputy Frank Dodd committing all of these murders.
Dum.
And so once again, that a thing?
Dodd flees the scene right before.
Right. But police using the fact that they're police to murder, because we see in the flashback that it like he wasn't even under his like police like, hey, I'm an officer, come over here. It was just like,
he knew the girl.
Hey, come over here. It was the gazebo, Alma. Yeah, just this girl, and he's like, hey, Alma, come over here. And he's like, what you got? Hello? Why aren't you saying anything? And then he gets her.
Right.
And I assume does terrible
and
things
in a very like disturbing way. He has these scissors that he stabs his victims with multiple times.
Yeah, they're like barber shears.
Yeah.
They're really pointed, like nose trimmer kind of things.
Which is how he killed, and it's only women he goes after.
Yeah, and which makes, I mean, I think they say in the broadcast, or maybe the police say, but they're also raped. Like it's a sexualized crime.
Yeah, and some of them are really young and.
Oh God, that's right. So last straw, Johnny knows who he is. Frank Dodd flees the scene of the crime, and they know where his house is. He's a deputy, so they go there. Mrs. Dodd is like defending him with like religious crap. And it isn't until Johnny touches her that he goes, "You knew.
Yeah.
You knew, didn't you? And you were protecting him." And she retaliates with, "You're the devil. You're the devil." And I love this idea that, like, I don't believe religion makes her this. I believe she uses religion to justify anything she needs, and that people are already sick, and they use religion to justify their sickness and things. That I don't think Catholicism or Christianity or any organized religion makes a person racist or transphobic or any of those things. I think they're born that way, and the wrong congregations just twist that and can turn people into just the most despicable monsters hiding behind righteousness when it's not. It's not at all that. And in proper perspective, I'm sorry, I'm being really political, but just proper perspective, that has nothing to do with your religion, and in no way am I commenting on your religion. In fact, Christianity, I think, is a very good, and it does a lot of good for people. I think you are lying. You're using the word to push, hate. Right.
I mean, like, from her perspective, she clearly loves her son and is willing to do.
Oh, that's a separate thing. That's why I believe that. So, but beneath all of that, you're the devil and things. It's a mother who loves her son, and unconditionally so, and who can never do wrong. And, might even do all the mental gymnastics to believe that, like, oh, these women deserve it, like, oh, they're whores or something like that. And my poor boy, like, it gets into, like, psycho kind of, like, manipulation of a person. Like, who's to say that Frank Dodd does this of his own volition? Maybe his mom is, the real source of this. Maybe she abused him growing up. Who knows? We don't know.
We don't see any
There's no due diligence done. In fact, Frank Dodd kills himself in the most horrific... Oh, my God.
Absolutely amazing.
It's great because he deserves that kind of death with what he's done, but for him to do it himself, so the way he kills himself is so movie, and I don't know if they do it in the book, but it's just it makes no sense. Just like from a I have self-preservation, and even if I put myself in the time to die, I don't want to do it with a lot of pain. I want it to be as painless as possible. He puts his those particular scissors that he uses on all his criminals in the tub on the faucet in such a way that he can essentially do like a quick sit-up and stab himself in the face.
He's going to throw his weight down onto this, and it's going to go into his mouth through the back of his neck. And we kind of see
because when he bursts in, when Johnny and the detective burst, or the sheriff burst in, he's still alive, kind of, and like just on his like last, he's like gurgling. He's got the scissors in his face. Oh my God, dude! Like. That is such a thing for me is foreign objects in the face, like eyes or just because. That makes me cringe.
Yeah, they did a really good job in the visually showing it. I thought they were going to cut away or something like that.
I thought they weren't going to show it or something. It was just going to be like, oh, he's definitely dead, and take our word for it, he's dead. But that's not it. They leave the scene, and Mrs. Dodd pulls a gun and actually shoots Johnny. Right. And I was like, oh shoot, like he's in trouble. He gets like a gut shot. And then Sheriff pulls a gun and blows her away. Right. And that
quick firefight.
That's it for the Dodds. And that's what prompts Johnny to move away, because this is what moves us on to what is the third triptych of Johnny gets approached by a brand new guy. What's his name?
You talking about the tutor for the
dad?
Kid?
I'm talking about the dad.
So Johnny's like left out to a different town, kind of nearby, and he wants his new life, and he doesn't want to go out in public, so he stays. He's like homeward.
He's a hermit, but he's still got to make money, so he starts teaching home lessons that he doesn't really advertise. They're kind of just word of mouth, because apparently people still know about him, and probably more so now that he actually like stopped a criminal. Right. So he gets approached by a very wealthy potential patron who says that my son is really introverted, and I'm worried about him, and I would love to pay you to tutor him and essentially, get him to come out of his shell. And he's like, okay, great, bring him over. He's like, no, you got to come to my house. And,
I don't go outside.
yeah, and he's like, that's a problem.
You're gonna have to do this once.
Long story short, he agrees. I found the dad. His name is the character's name is Roger Stewart, played by Anthony Zerbe, Zerbe.
And I feel like there's another piece of he also feels a bit of that responsibility. He's like, maybe I can have this kid out of his shell. Only it's gonna have to have me leaving the house.
Yeah.
Which is something he doesn't want to do.
But it's great because he realizes he still has a power beyond his psychic abilities. Right. He's still a power as a good educator and as a teacher, and he could probably change this young man's life, which he ends up doing, but not how he imagined. So Mr. Roger Stewart, I imagine, was willing to pay. I think he implies he's going to pay a lot of money for this.
He's very wealthy.
Yeah, so he could use the money. So John Smith agrees, and that's where we meet Governor Stilson, played by the great Martin Sheen. Martin Sheen. Fast-talking Republican, oh my God, he's the most greasy, despicable guy on screen.
And reminded me a lot
of our current president.
Yes,
it was really eerie. And there are YouTube videos and articles online about how this movie... It's so weird how we can go back and ingest past pieces of art and go like... I know
what a dirty con.
Yeah, this is so silly. This could never happen, and it's like we live it. Live it. There's a book that was written in like the 20s or the 30s called "It Could Never Happen Here" about a fictionalized America that slowly gets overtaken by fascism, and it was basically like a fictionalized account of what could happen if we just silently let things go by. And you read it today and it's basically an account of what's happening right now, of our leaders will be replaced by loud people who simply get their opinions out, and most importantly discredit actual news,
fake news,
to make them the only source of reason, and anything anyone else says is a trick or a lie. And it's like, oh my God, we're there. And okay, so we'll get to it.
I think he's running for governor is what we first see him doing, and or is it mayor first? I don't know.
No, he's
running for governor.
Yeah, he's running for governor, but for like a political race. Like the idea is that he's going to be president. He's gonna if he wins this governorship, then soon.
And he has that discussion with his what's his
Sonny?
Sonny, yeah. Which is like his, I don't know.
It's like his muscle.
Yeah, it's like his number 2.
He doesn't have any other job but to be intimidating and evil.
Although he's pretty clever. He's a pretty clever guy, the Sonny. Yeah, from what I understand, yeah.
Oh, okay. I can't wait to hear your take on it.
I forgot where exactly, but there's a few things where Sonny was the voice of reason.
Well, before we get there, we meet Chris, who's the little boy that son to Roger Stewart, Chris Stewart, and they actually hit it off. The way his dad makes him sound is like he's not going to talk, and it's going to take maybe several sessions before he opens up. And almost instantly, he's like, oh yeah, my dad's weird. He's got a big, beautiful room. It's an amazing house and things, but it's obvious his dad is semi-neglectful, doesn't understand him, thinks he likes hockey when he's got an old dot matrix computer. I love that.
I think his dad is forcing him out versus letting him do his thing.
He has no interest in getting to know him. He just wants him to be okay. And to him, he's like, oh, he's weird. I don't know. Did your parents ever do that? I kind of had a similar thing where it was like, oh, you're not playing sports and you're not going out.
That was kind of
what's wrong? Yeah, but why is that seen as oh, that's wrong? Is it because movies and TV show kids as that's they're running around and
I think it's
extroverted?
Just most people are extroverted, so when there is someone who's introverted, you don't really there must be something wrong with them wanting to be alone for a while.
Yeah, so is that an individual's inexperience with knowing how to interact with introverted people, or is that a responsibility that everyone kind of has, that it's the introverted should be expected to educate people on how to treat them, or I don't know. That seems
I guess
a lot of
part of your...
Who has the power and who has the responsibility is what I'm trying to get to. Yeah. Is it the person who's trying to just be themselves, or is it the person who's trying to push what they think is normal on everyone?
Yeah.
I think it's the latter, right?
It's probably both.
Is it? I don't know. I feel like that inappropriately puts a lot on the person who's just trying to be themselves.
Yeah.
Like, do I also have to know how to articulate what I want and who I am?
I mean, it's
That's
important, you know. 'Cause
That's true.
So,
That is true. I feel like there is a value to being able to communicate your interests
because
confidently.
how would people know? Sort of thing.
Yeah, and
So,
how can you stand up for yourself if you don't even know what you like? And so that's kind of like Chris. He doesn't seem to have a lot of friends, but he has his interests that aren't supported by his family.
Right.
And that's probably what resulted in him being kind of reclusive. Johnny probably responds to that as well with his current situation. Who knows if, he was an introverted child or things like that, but he certainly is now. He's basically a hermit by choice. Chris is kind of a hermit, not by choice. Or maybe by choice.
Or maybe a little bit choice.
Yeah, but so they have that kind of kinship. And the dad doesn't like it. Like, he sees them, it's like day one. I thought it made it seem like it was like, maybe a week, but
like
they're
a montage,
outside. Yeah, because it's like them like walking outside and it's like, oh, hey, aren't we having fun? But apparently it was the same day because the dad's like, I don't want you, like, doesn't he say this? Or am I making this up?
I don't think so. I don't remember that.
I just remember there being a weird moment where it's like they're walking outside and they're being buddy-buddy and the dad's like looking at the curtain like, well, I don't know about this. But like, he paid him. This is what he wanted.
Right.
But anyway, so Governor Stilson, who we met, there's a couple of little scenes of him being a bastard.
Yeah.
First we meet him,
what I like is like the first scene we see him, he's trying to get...
he's trying to get everyone's vote.
He's trying to get the donation from, what's the dad's name?
Roger Stewart. That's what he's doing.
Yeah, and as soon as he walks into the door, he reaches his hand out, so you think, oh, Johnny's going to touch his hand, but no, he actually gives him a button.
That's a great moment.
That was really good for him running for governor.
And there's also a great comment where John asks Roger Stewart, he's like, why do you like this guy? Like, what do you do? And it's a really relatable thing to President Donald Trump, where it's like, these kinds of guys...
They're slime
you don't
balls.
want to be on their bad side.
Right.
Yeah, they're slime balls. You don't want to be on their bad side, but
you can't have them. You don't want to support them, but you don't want them to be your enemy.
Is that it? Yeah, I just remember the one line of him saying, like,
I mean, that's paraphrasing.
You want them to remember, like, once they make it, you want them to remember you fondly, or something like that. And it's just, that's it. Is that, like, even if you know what they're doing is wrong, they're going to make it, and you just got to get yours. You got to get on those coattails. You got to ride whatever you can behind them, draft and get what you can out of it.
Johnny's
without being implicated directly.
Yeah, so he sees what's the dad's name? Roger Stewart.
Yeah, Roger.
He's friendly with the governor candidate and
Stilson. Yeah,
Stilson, and they seem like buddies. And then as soon as he leaves, he shows like a speech of his, and clearly. Johnny's like, Roger Stewart is making fun of Stilson on the TV. And he's like, well, Johnny's like, I thought you were friends. It's like, no, this is kind of just something you have to do. It's sort of like politics that you play.
Yeah. And God, that's it, isn't it? Like, you sit here.
There's one other line that he says, like, this guy's a lunatic or something like that, but people are crazy enough to listen to him.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That was the line, is that he's a lunatic, but people are crazy enough to listen to him. That, like, all of his logos and stuff is him wearing a hard hat and trying to be like, oh, I'm one of you. I'm one of the people.
Yeah, he's doing push-ups. He's like, oh, I'm going to make this country so good, or I'm going to make you so...
Basically the same stuff, but that line is what rings true, is that, like, he's crazy and we know it, but... other people are crazy enough to listen to him, so it just makes financial and personal sense to not, like, fully ally ourselves, but don't unally.
You can't support him, or you don't want to support him, but you don't want to, like, drag your...
And so in that moment, Roger has power. And every person who's supporting this monster has power to stop him.
Yep, he's a very wealthy guy. He knows he's a bad...
In the same way that Jon Stewart has. He has the same kind of power, but they're afraid. They don't have the responsibility to use that power. They're not concerned with living beyond themselves. They wouldn't sacrifice themselves to save their child in World War II. They would probably sacrifice their mother now to make a buck. Like that kind of mentality. Because what is the quote? It's all evil needs to succeed is for good men to do nothing. That kind of thing. That it doesn't mean picketing in the streets. It doesn't mean,
just staying silent.
It's just being silent and just assuming someone else will do it, or that it's not really a big deal, or that it won't affect you. It will. And what's worse is that people will will trick voters into thinking they're voting for something that will make their lives better because they're told that, they're lied to when
it's just empty promises after empty promises.
Fake promises,
Right.
legitimately fake. Oh, this is going to make so many jobs. This is going to make so many jobs. Yeah, just straight up lies. And Stillson isn't as like openly dumb with his lies. He's painted as more politically savvy, but he's also just a straight up gangster in some scenes.
Yeah.
In between the Roger Stewart, Chris Stewart, all of that, there was a scene of Stillson and Sonny blackmailing
An editor. Yeah.
literally affecting the press.
So
Who have we seen been doing that lately?
Yep.
With his Fox and Friends.
Also, what's the name? David Peter or something like that, the guy who owns the Inquirer.
Oh boy, yeah.
No. Well, in this film, the editor was going to publish something against Stillson, but
He's going to do his job
Right.
as unaffiliated press. He wasn't. I'm saying that as he was not affiliated with any political pundit. He was
Right.
not owned
Although
by.
he clearly didn't like Stillson, but
Right,
yeah.
but that's kind
That's
of the
his
job.
job.
That's
Yep.
the job is to like
Right.
Stillson's job is to push himself.
Yep.
Everyone else's job is to show the facts and opinions and Stillson as
So he had Sonny take pictures of him and his mistress.
yeah
and he's
sleeping with
gonna-
someone who wasn't
Yep.
his wife. He blackmails him with that. And obviously the editor runs a positive story or just doesn't run the bad one or something
Right.
like that. So anyway, John hasn't been using his powers. He's been,
And he does imply that if he doesn't do it, it's not just going to be that we show this to your wife. It
we're
also
going to show it
implies,
to her
like-
wife's friends and your friends
Right.
and everybody, right?
Yeah, and also, I think it was like a physical threat or something like that he was going to.
Oh, that's right. Is that
yeah.
Sonny will like snap your head
Right,
off or
yeah.
something. And that's like, Sonny does not look like just like, I think that's what makes him legitimately terrifying and to me is that he doesn't look scary. He's not built.
He looks kind of like Kramer from.
He does a little bit. He does. With
Seinfeld?
much shorter hair,
Yeah.
but yeah. God, I hate that guy. Sonny. Played by Geza Kovacs with a couple of accents, and he might be Italian or something. Like there's an accent over the E and the A. So anyway, John Smith hasn't been using his powers with Chris, his new tutor or tutee. But he gets a vision. I don't remember who he touches. Does he touch Chris?
I
Does
think
he like touch his
so.
face or something?
Yeah. So he's so Johnny goes to answer the door, and it's his lover, his previous. It's Sarah.
It's the new husband. Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
and
Sarah's
then-
new husband.
Right. Sarah's new husband, and he sees that she's with her, and he closes the door, and afterwards
Because they didn't even know he moved. Yeah,
Right,
or they did,
right.
but they didn't know where. And
Yeah.
it's like, God damn it, now I gotta move again.
Yeah. Well, it's not just that. Like he closes the door, and he sees Sarah with the life he
Oh,
could have
that's right.
had,
And
he
he
starts
just
crying.
Destroys him.
Yeah.
He collapses back basically at the door, and poor Chris has no idea what's going
Right.
on, and he never really explains it. But yeah, he touches Chris's like face in that moment, and that's when he sees you're gonna drown. You're gonna drown while playing hockey.
Right. The
And
ice
so-
is gonna break, and you're gonna fall in.
So
and
he
drown.
goes home. Oh God, I love that. I've been posting that on Instagram the last couple of days because it's my absolute favorite moment in this movie. John Smith goes home and goes to Roger with Chris and says, they get there and he's like, "Hey, thanks for so much of the
Right.
invite. I wanted to celebrate. We're gonna go play ice hockey with you and a bunch of your friends." And John Smith says, "No, you can't do that." And he's like, "Why?" The ice is going to break and they're all going to drown. And this guy, Roger Stewart, who has been paying
Right.
John, knowing that he has psychic powers and used them like last month to stop a murderer.
Well, it seems like it's longer than a month. It seems like it's.
Well, he doesn't believe him.
Some time passed.
He
yeah.
doesn't believe him. And he's like, this is ridiculous.
Don't you know who I am? Of course, I did tons of research before.
He even
Yeah.
says that. He's
Yeah.
just like, yeah, of course I know who you are,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to listen.
Yeah.
And it's like, at that point, it's like a civil discussion. They're like maybe at a 3. They're having, kind of
Yeah, it's like
an argument.
The ice usually doesn't melt until this month,
Yeah,
so
they're
we're
being
safe.
pretty
yeah.
reasonable.
Yeah.
And then John takes his cane, breaks a candy dish, because rich people just have candy dishes, and screams, goes from like a 3 to a 10. The ice is gonna break! And not just like, you get out of my house. And like, totally inappropriate.
Right. He's like, fine. You don't want me as your house. You don't want me as a tutor. That's
No,
fine.
I don't want you here because you're violent. I don't know what you're going to do. You just broke something.
Well, I mean,
But the dad agrees. He's like, all right, fine. You're clearly convicted enough to
like,
not...
get out of my child's life, but fine, we won't go to the...
But fine. Yeah, so he leaves and he's like, all right, that's good enough.
Clearly you're adamant about this, yeah.
But then his dad's like, hey, just kidding. We're going to go. Yeah. And...
The kid is like, why did you say that we were, that we weren't going to go?
But the dad learns his lesson. We see later that...
A couple other kids.
He's just in absolute... agonizing guilt that he's just sitting in like his den because 2 kids drowned, and it was absolutely his fault, and he had the power to not take those kids out there, and he didn't use that responsibly.
He didn't.
I don't know, is that the wrong way to interpret that? Who had the power?
Well, I mean, I guess it's Johnny, but he exercised it as best as he could. And the dad, I don't know why he didn't believe Johnny here.
I don't either. That's what I was getting at earlier.
It's not like so much a power thing, but I don't know why he thought this was good for...
It's like an arrogance thing. Like, well,
I know better.
Yeah, I know better. And like, I don't know, I pay you, so how dare you tell me what to do? Like, kind of thing. Maybe that's the power kind of thing, a power imbalance. Yeah.
For the rest of the movie, we just see him like, just in a chair, not moving
That's
much.
the last time we see him, because the movie shifts to...
we don't see him
the proper... I mean, so this has all been within the last tick of the triptych, but this is where it really kicks into high gear, is Stilson is getting a lot of support, so much so that when Johnny is out at one of his rallies and the... Governor Stilson is shaking hands with people. He shakes hands with...
Well, he specifically... So he's got a rally almost in front of his house, and he sees like this big poster of signs, and he knows there's going to be a rally coming up. And we see this long shot of him limping all the way to... well, maybe not limping, but he's got a limp after he was shot.
Yeah.
And he's walking all the way down to the rally knowing Stilson's going to shake his hand. And he wants to know what this guy's all about, because everyone seems to be believing this guy. And
so he hasn't made a decision to do anything. He just kind of wants to get info on this guy. So he plants himself in the handshaking train.
Yeah, he puts himself in the line.
He shakes his hand, and he sees... I love how his visions are kind of like just in this void. Like it's all black in the background, because that's not what matters. It's the event that he's seeing. And so, like we've seen, John Smith's powers are all tied to mortality, but in this instance, it's the world's mortality. Governor Stilson, if voted governor, will have a meteoric rise straight to the presidency, and per John's vision, will start all-out nuclear war, World War III, in a fit of religious fervor.
Yeah, he thinks like he's somehow destined to do this, to be remembered in history as the guy who, I don't know.
And he's straight up going to murder a 5-star general if he doesn't do it. Sonny's there in like the little gazebo. Oh, where are they? It looks like they're on like the beach or something. I can't tell.
I don't know. It looks like it's one of those presidential compounds like Camp David
like
or
Camp
something
David.
like that.
That's probably what it is. Yeah, because like the entire cabinet is like on their way. They're like walking there, and they managed to do all this before. Right. And then what's his name? Stilson, Martin Sheen comes down and delivers one of the best lines. The missiles are flying. Hallelujah. It's a long vision. I started to get like a little too immersed in the vision when he comes back out, and it's just the handshake and things. Yep. But that's what gives John his conviction.
A little bit before that, though, he does go to the doctor. And
right. Well, no. It was after he read his vision, because then he goes to the doctor and says, what would you do? Yeah. What would you do if you had this kind of power to...
So it's just 2 things. First, he says, I saw a vision with the kid.
Yeah.
And he's like, and the kid was supposed to die, but I stopped it. He's like, and the doctor says,
John, don't you realize what this means? Not only do you have the power to read the future, and then John says, I have the power to change it.
You have how do they come into
it's
the
such
term
a weird...
dead zone?
Yeah. Oh, well, okay, so that's a difference in the book than in the movie. Okay. So in the movie, it's the dead zone is like a blind spot in his visions.
That's right. He didn't see it all clearly.
Is that for some reason in his visions, there are certain things that he just can't see, like a blind spot, like in a car, or things like that, or when you cover one eye or whatever.
Like a dead zone.
Is that what a dead zone is? Because
like a blind spot. Yeah,
crap. What is in the
synonym?
Yeah, in the book it's a different metaphor. In the book it's I can't remember. But yeah, so that's the dead zone, and he explains it in there. Roll credits. But then he asks the
during
doctor,
those dead zones, you could change the future. Like what happens there is kind of
they're
up to
not
you.
set in stone.
Yeah.
That some events are set in stone, and the dead zones are where you can avert things. Which historically in Stephen King books, especially that deal with time travel, changing things is never met well. It's usually like in 11/22/63, the story of where a character goes back in time to make sure that Kennedy is assassinated or stop Kennedy from being assassinated. I can't remember. I didn't finish it. It's not that good a show on Hulu. J.J. Abrams, that was his first attempt at adapting a Stephen King thing. The second one, Castle Rock, in my opinion, is much better.
Is that also J.J. Abrams?
Yeah. Produced what's that actor's name? Not Franco. James Franco's. James Franco thing about 1963's assassination of John F. Kennedy. But in that story, time itself is a force that when it senses things trying to change from where they should be, it pushes back, sometimes extremely violently. And so it's fun to see in this movie that it's like, no, you can just change whatever you want and nothing really bad's going to happen except you're going to die sooner. And so with this, what finally gets him to make his decision is he explains to the doctor that, so now this isn't really saving a life as much as it is stopping a guy from living.
He specifically asks him if
Hitler.
if you were to go back in time to,
which is a huge thought experiment. People always talk about.
Right. And if you could go back in time and you met Hitler, and would you kill him? And the doctor is like,
I am a doctor.
Yeah.
And I have sworn an oath to make sure that I'm always helping people.
Yeah.
And that's why I say that if I were to go back there, of course I'd kill the son of a bitch.
Yeah, which is crazy because when he first said I'm a doctor, I thought like, oh, he's do no harm.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be like, like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah, it's like.
But it's something, that's something I've been learning more and more. I think it started with a Steven Universe episode that I watched most recently, but that, like, think about Batman and his idea that what separates us from the Joker and from Mad Men is that I don't kill. I do everything I do, but I don't kill. And even if the Joker kills billions of people and I know it, I'm never going to kill him because that's the rule. And there's a problem in that.
If he does kill him, the Joker wins.
Then he basically becomes the Joker essentially. That like then I've done it.
I'm no better than
them. That doesn't work in the real world. And as nice as that sounds, and as nice and as righteous as you can think, going, well, all death is precious, all life is precious, and we really shouldn't celebrate when Hitler dies or when Osama bin Laden's assassinated. It's not right to cheer when a person's dead. I used to believe that, and I'm realizing, both through real world experience and through TV and movies. Frankly, I'm not afraid to admit that I take some of my life lessons from media. That's what gives us the fabric and rubric for which we can tell what's normal in society. That sometimes there are people who are beyond saving, are beyond help. Or at least Superman learns this in Man of Steel. Zod will never stop. And there are just some people that...
They're such a menace to society that you want to preserve everybody else. Or
you want to believe that everyone is good. And even the worst people are probably just misguided or products of their upbringing or their societies.
Yeah,
and
like you could, if you were to go back in time, like maybe you try to befriend Hitler first, and then if that doesn't work, then take him out. So,
but like, where's the line? Where do you do you stop when he's
like if he goes crazy a little bit?
What is crazy?
So
So it's that responsibility.
Maybe he just needed a friend.
It's that responsibility, and it's hard to sit here and admit I have a power to take someone's life to play God,
right?
Because officially no one has the right to determine who lives and who dies. But men have long ago decided that no, we do have that right, and these things equal death, and by our own hands. Right. And some of those are protected by the Constitution, some of those are protected by mob mentality, but at the end of the day, like, it's a horrifically gray line. It's not black and white like Batman wants to believe, or like Steven Universe wants to believe in the first 4 seasons of his show. There's just some people who can't be reasoned with and can't be. They just can't, like Batman and the Joker. There is no argument that says the Joker will eventually be better and will eventually be a functional member of society. He kills and kills, and Batman. All those deaths are on Batman's hands by letting the Joker live, and his own family members tell him that. So this is a big moment for John. Is to
wait. Batman has family members.
Who? Oh yeah, well, Bat family, like Robin and Alfred and Batgirl and Batwoman and all of them, Nightwing,
his associates, and
basically,
friends.
his team members, the Bat family. It's honestly gotten way too big at this point, but what are you gonna do? John realizes in this moment what he has to do, that he has the responsibility, he has the power to stop a mass genocide from happening.
He will create a nuclear holocaust. And
so if he did nothing and that happened, he couldn't live with himself. He
kind of in your hands.
It's just as bad. It's doing nothing. Knowing that evil would happen, knowing evil that grand would happen, and to do nothing would basically make it his doing. Right. He would be complicit. That's literally complicit.
There's a really powerful phrase: "Is the road to the Holocaust was paved with indifference."
Yeah. It's the same idea that doing nothing is all it takes to let evil thrive, evil men. So John decides he's not going to let evil men thrive. He's not going to let history repeat itself, and he's not going to let the world end. He takes it upon himself to assassinate.
And it's a really cool. So we see him he's loading the rifle, and he's getting on the bus. And then in the meantime, we hear a voiceover of him writing a letter to Sarah. It's like, you're probably not going to understand why I did what I did.
How could anyone?
Yeah.
And Matt, it's like going back in time and killing baby Hitler and having to explain to everyone, you have to understand, I murdered this baby. You don't know what would have happened. No one would ever believe you. And if anything, he kind of has to die, because if he didn't,
he would be in prison or something.
Oh God, or worse, dissected. People would have wanted, what? Like the government probably.
But maybe they'd somehow let him, because people knew he was a psychic, so maybe he can persuade people that this guy was really evil. I don't know.
I think it was like in a small town, so it was kind of like
it's weird that his publicity isn't
but it's like, he's a psychic, and it's interesting, but maybe the rest of the nation was like, what a weird thing.
Yeah, maybe they were skeptical of it, this just happened in this weird town. It's
all
probably
these podunk people believe anything in this tiny East Coast. Whatever. So anyway, I want to just get to it, which is John Smith sleeps in the room that they're all going to be. Governor Stilson is set to give a big rally tomorrow in this community center. John breaks into it and sleeps there overnight with his gun, so that the next morning
in the upper balcony, so
in the upper rafters balcony, so that nobody sees him when the rally starts, and he gets up with his rifle. And so here's the stage. I want to set this right. On the stage is in the middle a podium with Governor Stilson. To the left of him, audience right, stage left is Sonny. Audience left, stage right is Sarah with her baby. And that's everyone who's important.
And her husband.
And her husband is also next to her.
Because they're really good supporters of...
So everyone's supporting him. He's yelling all kinds of stuff. I don't really know. It doesn't matter, because what happens is, here we go. John pulls the rifle up. Someone...
He drops
Sarah
one
sees,
shelf.
Right? Someone screams first, and that's what makes Greg look to Sarah, as Sarah sees him up there. That's right. So I don't think he expected her to be there. So when he pulls the gun up and she screams, "Johnny!"
Right.
Governor Stilson turns away. John gets a shot off and misses. It blows a part of the podium off, which causes Governor Stilson to immediately run over to Sarah, grab her baby and hold it up in front of him as a human shield while screaming for Sonny to take out the shooter, which he does.
Yeah, with a pistol.
With a pistol. Sonny is a good shot.
Incredible.
He takes him out, and oh my God, this looks so painful. When John gets shot, he falls from like a 2-story height onto like pews, like church pews, and just like smashes them to bits. Oh man, it looks like such a gnarly fall. But by this time, Sarah's husband has ripped the baby away from Governor Stilson.
Everyone evacuated.
Everyone is going crazy. Gunshots have been happening, so people are evacuating out of there, and eventually Sonny and Stilson make it over to John.
Yep.
John is dying, gurgling blood there, but Governor Stilson grabs him, I think like his hand enough, to say like, who are you? What the heck is this? Because he doesn't recognize him or anything. But that's where we see his new changed vision of a shot of Governor Stilson sitting next to a magazine of Time or something like that with a big photo of him using a goddamn baby as a human shield. No future for Stilson. Totally destroyed his chances.
Yep.
And of course, since John's powers are all relegated to mortality, it's a vision of Stilson killing himself.
Yep, he's shot himself in the head.
So in a way,
and then Johnny's like, "You're finished."
You finished.
Yeah, then he smiles and he's going down.
And then Stilson yells at Sonny, like, "Did you see the photographer?"
Yeah.
And no, he already got out of there, so no, he's done. He's done. But Sarah gets one last moment to run over to him, and this just like, his final moments, he's dying. He gets to say goodbye, and she gets to say, "I love you," before he dies. And then, credits.
Yep.
Just like, oh my God, all these movies, they all end this way, where it's just like, all right, that was everything. No falling action. Let's just get it. Let's get out of there. Yeah.
I kind of like that in this one because there's nothing really else to show.
Our main character is dead.
Yeah.
Anything else to happen without
Right. And we
Johnny,
know what's going to happen, at least in the world.
Yeah.
So
We'll get into that after this. But so that's the recap. We're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll be talking about our analysis, what we thought about the movie, and finally our rating on the Gory Days.
The Gory Days.
Sure. You're at the Dapper Cadaver booth at Midsummer Scream. I'm BJ Winslow. I'm one of the owners of Dapper Cadaver. We're a prop shop in Burbank, California.
Oh, Burbank, okay.
That's right. We make bodies. We make body parts. We make animals, creatures, zombies, skeletons, mummies, skulls, and we do both sales and rentals, as well as the fabrication.
Right.
So for any kind of haunt or horror movie need, we're go-to guys.
So who are some of your buyers? I mean, we know Not Scary Farm and Screamfest and all of those things.
Right.
I imagine smaller haunted houses need to get their props from somewhere.
Oh yeah, we do neighborhood haunted houses, as well as big things. Like last year, we were working on the Google Halloween party.
Wow, really?
Oh yeah, we've done celebrity Halloween parties. We do massive movies. We've worked on the Transformers franchise, the Jurassic Park franchise. We've worked on most of the X-Men movies since the fourth one. And then, so...
That's an impressive filmography you just rattled off. So when you say you worked on them, to what extent? So, I mean, I see a lot of prosthetic, or I don't know what the correct term is, but...
not prosthetics, props.
Props.
So we do things like fake bodies, fake body parts, stunt dummies. Like, for instance, with the X-Men movies, we did on Days of Future Past, there's that post-apocalyptic sequence where there's bodies in a dump truck, there's bodies and there's skeletons all over the ground.
So things that an extra wouldn't be allowed to do.
Sure, sometimes. And yeah, we did most of the pieces in those scenes. For instance, what was the next one? Age of Apocalypse. There's some Egyptian sequences. We provided some mummies for the Egyptian sequences. For Deadpool, the first Deadpool movie, we rented them some chickens.
Okay.
It's Deadpool. I didn't see any chickens in the movie.
No, I think that scene must have gotten cut.
I don't know what Deadpool did with my chickens. It's Deadpool, so it couldn't have been very nice.
Maybe it was the deleted scene.
So, some things remain mysterious.
I imagine with all those big names and things, you must be a go-to name in the film industry. What are you doing here?
Well, I mean, we do all level of stuff. This is one of the things I love about Midsummer Scream is this is a great place to come, and it's a great place to meet people who are running the mid-level haunts, the local haunts. There's some big names here as well, and it's a great place to network.
So is this a passion for you? Do you love horror? What brings you to this world?
I mean, I've loved this stuff since I was a kid.
Yeah?
You know, I've been...
Did your parents make you watch a movie too young, or did you just love it?
I mean, like, I grew up on ghost stories.
Okay.
I grew up on ghost stories. I grew up next to a cemetery.
In Burbank?
In Northern California.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, this kind of thing has always been a part of my life. And, you know, as soon as I was able to, I started making things, painting things. And a lot of those things that I made were creepy. So
Right.
it's good to be able to put that love into action.
So you mentioned you own this in part.
With my wife.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yes.
That's I don't know. Sometimes that doesn't work out. So
We're co-owners of the business. She's amazing, and we do. I mean, it really is a partnership.
is this all just the two of you?
No, I've got a crew of about 10 people.
Okay.
Yes.
Based in Burbank.
Based in Burbank.
Okay.
Yep.
So where can people find you if they want to?
You can find us at www.dappercadaver.com.
Okay.
You can find us in Burbank, near the Burbank Airport, on San Fernando Road. And you can find me at Midsummer Scream. You can also find me at Transworld. I'm always there at that convention, and Monsterpalooza as well.
Awesome. Well,
Yes.
and what was your name?
My name is BJ.
Good to meet you, BJ.
Nice to meet you.
The Gory Days.
Welcome back to the Gory Days. That, of course, was an interview from Midsummer Scream of me with a gentleman who works at a company called The Dapper Cadaver. They specialize in, I was educated, I think, on the interview there, the difference between a prosthetic and whatever they make. But it's different. A prosthetic is, kind of like an extension of something that
Okay.
ideally is prehensile and things. They specialize in just like body parts. Like if you just want a leg in the background, it's a rubbery leg.
So this is completely detached from a person, this leg, or can it be?
Yeah.
Okay.
But they also have like full body, like, oh, here's a body that looks like it's been rotted to a certain degree, and you want a big pile of those in the background, or you want a bunch of hands and like a psychopath's layer. Like they're the guys that can make photorealistic stuff like that.
Cool.
Yeah, the Dapper Cadaver.
And they create this for movies, for films?
Yeah, they do it for independent movies. I think in the interview he rattles off like some big names that I was like, oh wow, because like I mentioned with the last one, this place is geared toward people who can afford kind of like the bigger, higher quality amusement park level effects and things. But independent filmmakers need to make horror movies somehow. Even on YouTube. Anyway, we're back here on the Gory Days talking about The Dead Zone, Stephen King's The Dead Zone, directed by David Cronenberg. We're going to talk about our analysis, some of the themes, go through some of the trivia that we picked up on this movie, starting, of course, with the fact that this takes place in Castle Rock. As I mentioned before, The Dead Zone's the first Stephen King book to take place in Castle Rock. Several others...
It's Castle Rock in what state?
Maine.
Maine.
It's
Okay.
always Maine.
It's always Maine.
It's
Gotcha.
always
Right.
Maine, yeah.
I should have just guessed that.
It's okay, but yeah, anytime it's Stephen King, it's always Maine because that's where he lived. Following Stephen King's The Dead Zone was Cujo, Stand By Me, The Dark Half, and Needful Things, all of which are referenced in the new Castle Rock TV show. The film and Stephen King's novel are both loosely based on the life of famous psychic Peter Hurkos. So not necessarily John Edwards or any of those, but this is kind of like, the first guy who did this. Hurkos claimed to have acquired his alleged psychic powers after falling off a ladder and hitting his head. So this...
Pretty close to a roller coaster.
Yeah, kind of, or a car crash or whatever. But yeah, this kind of like sparked the idea of, in severe physical trauma that you survive releases latent psychic abilities or powers
You
in
tap
somebody.
into it somehow.
But this guy took it to just an insane degree. Peter Hurkos was a Dutchman who allegedly manifested extrasensory perception, or ESP, after recovering from a head injury and coma caused by a fall from a ladder when he was 30. With the help of businessman Harry Belk and parapsychologist, quote-unquote, Andrija Puric, Hurkos became a popular entertainer known for performing psychic feats before live audiences, especially TV. So this is where it starts to fall apart, and I feel like this is just three people trying to make money off of a poor person's accident. The parapsychologist Andrea Purich was impressed by the stories about Hurkos and invited him to the USA in 1956 to investigate his alleged psychic abilities. Hurkos was studied at Purich's Glen Cove, Maine, a medical research laboratory under what Dr. Purich considered to be controlled conditions. The results convinced Purich that Hurkos had genuine psychic abilities. However, any time somebody tried to look at her studies or anything that happened in there, she would say no, they were only for her and only for her medical team. So, who's to say that this guy was on the up and up? Hurkos and his supporters maintained that he was a great psychic detective. By 1969, he cited the successful solution of 27 murder cases in 17 countries. So that answers the question I was wondering earlier. Is this based on like real world cases of the police turning to psychics?
Yeah, which is really weird that happens.
Absolutely. And it kind of sounds like that shouldn't be the way we were talking about it, because it makes them liable. In fact, Hurkos made notable claims contrary to popular belief, such as the claim that Adolf Hitler was alive and living in Argentina, and that an innocent suspect was the Boston Strangler. Hurkos was put on trial on the charge of impersonating a federal agent, found guilty, and fined $1,000. Hurkos posed as a police officer in order to gather information that he would later claim to the police to be psychic revelations. So he was gaming the system on both sides. He was posing as a federal agent to get evidence, and then going to the police saying, I'm a psychic and I know things that there's no way a civilian could know. Yeah.
What was the doctor's angle? Was the doctor profiting off this?
The doctor is what legitimized it. A guy in the middle of nowhere saying I have psychic powers is great, and maybe you'll convince, dummies, but to get police and, quote unquote intelligent people to believe you, you need a hokey, any kind of like professor or doctor or scientist.
I just don't understand the motive for a doctor to do that.
Oh, I'm sure she was getting a kickback.
She's getting it on tape.
Yeah, I'm sure she was getting, yeah. So I feel like that kind of is a nice little segue into the themes of this movie of psychic abilities and just the unknown coming into being, into reality, whether it's you yourself or someone in your town, and how apparently that doesn't really change much about your day-to-day life, at least in this movie. Like, it has to be like this kind of thing, and this real life story is what makes the fact that people don't come from miles around begging for religious kinds of help from a psychic, is that he's probably lying.
Well, I guess like people think, oh, he's probably just another one of those psychics.
Another liar, like this guy.
Right.
And since him, there have been, countless people who claim to be psychics. There are people who base their like careers and feed their family of fours on being a psychic here in LA, or like a tarot reader.
Them,
I've never gone to a single one of those. I don't know what they tell people.
I don't know.
But I've heard on podcasts that like people will go to them in lieu of therapists, because they'll go there to essentially hear what they want to be told, but then also to unload things on. So in that way, it's like, it's much cheaper than therapy.
Is it?
Yeah. Well,
Guess,
it's medical.
Sure,
so anything medical insurance is going to be way more expensive. But psychic, I imagine, will take whatever you want. They're practically lying to you.
No.
I think it was Dan Harmon who was saying that he goes to a psychic. Would you ever God, people who know it's not real, they know it, are like in such a place of desperation. What makes a person believe in psychic powers?
I'm not. I guess it's.
Well, let's imagine, because that's what the theme is here.
Right.
What could you imagine would make someone believe in this?
I guess I'd want some comfort to know.
It would have to come from like a deep, like something that you never got closure of, or something like that. Because psychics are all, in my experience, they're always tied to the other side. Like, they're not just a psychic, they can do like seances, because psychic in my lexicon is somebody who can read minds or read thoughts or read feelings. It doesn't equate to speaking with the dead, just the word. What is the word that, what am I thinking of that means like, I can speak to the dead? What is that?
I don't know.
Like, it's like no, it's not ESP, because and extrasensory perception. It's like beyond the five senses. We got taste, sight, sound, touch,
vision. Or did you say?
I already said sight.
Okay. Wait. Smell.
Taste, touch, sight, sound, feel, and smell. Yeah. And so anything beyond that, in kind of a similar way that like animals can sense when a storm is coming, or like tension in other animals without, just like through subtle ear twitches or things like that.
Yeah, like birds, their brains can like sense the magnetic patterns in the Earth's core, and they know how to navigate based on that.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that, for like migrating and things like that. That's crazy. Yeah. So yeah, the idea of a person being able to tap into this like idea, like that it's just there, and we're all just like one head injury away from being able to be a psychic or something. Yeah. So I think this movie does a good job of kind of painting it in a realistic light. Once again, I haven't read the book, and this isn't a book podcast. We're talking about the movie, and the movie seems pretty realistic. People are really interested in the first, like when it first happens, and then Governor Stolzen's running. It's this news cycle that it's like the most interesting thing.
Yeah, and he's been a hermit, so no one's interested in him.
Yeah, it's not like he's going around like this guy trying to spread his. He doesn't have a publicist.
Avoiding it at all costs. In fact, there's people are sending him mail, and
that's right.
Yeah, there's he opens the door, and his doctor's like, "What is that?" And he's like, "Oh, it's letters about people who want answers for their."
And he says, "I can't even open them."
Yeah, but I know what they are.
Yeah. That's a weird one. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Is that it has nothing to do with touch.
Right.
He just knows what's in the letters.
Well, no. He knows because that's what people would ask for.
Oh, that's what he means.
Yeah,
he doesn't mean literal.
No. He doesn't actually read it. He's just like, this is what people would want to know. And he doesn't want to, I guess, expose himself to all that. At that point, he's being the reluctant hero.
Yeah, and that's another good theme is the idea of the reluctant hero. It plays into the with great power comes great responsibility. Is this guy is a school teacher. He didn't really he wasn't an activist. He wasn't a cop. He wasn't doing any more than he knew what to do, which is educate the next generation and just be a good teacher.
Right. He had his life like a simple
completely
life
ripped
set.
from him. Yeah. And like in a way that it's like, okay, well, you were gone for 5 years and now your life is yours again. Try to keep up. It's okay. You were gone for 5 years and now your life belongs to everyone, kind of. And it's that he's a superhero. Yeah. Like you can paint this as a drama or whatever, but this is, like a superhero movie kind of in the, broadest sense that it's a guy who he has an origin story. Yeah. He saves the day and then, he sacrifices himself like a good hero's journey. And he even grows a little bit and, grows beyond himself and realizes his responsibility to the rest of the world. Even if, maybe he could have stuck around and helped other people.
Like maybe he
could have killed him later.
Or just maybe there's other ways other than killing him.
Maybe he could have just voted against him or lobbied
I'm a
against
psychic
him.
and I know this guy will ruin the world.
Yeah, like that's the most extreme and most dramatic solution to the problem. But yeah, he doesn't really think it through. He doesn't have the kind of future sight that gives him.
Or maybe he thinks like this will for sure do it.
Maybe.
This is my chance. He's here in town giving the speech. I'm going to take him out now. And
this is my one shot. Yeah. But as we were going through the movie, I realized in ways that I didn't even write down that there are tons of people in this movie who have power and either do or don't use the responsibility to act on it. Usually it's John learning, like the hard way or the easy way, that he has a responsibility here and he has to do everything in his power. It's not enough to beg people or break their candy dishes or something. He has to put it into his own hands.
Right.
He can't go tell the cops, I saw this and you gotta stop that guy.
And I guess that's a good point of why he might have taken the rifle and tried to kill him with his own hands, because when he did speak, nothing really came of it. Yeah, because people didn't believe him.
Think of all the other times he told the doctor his mom's alive. He didn't do anything. He told.
Well, he did.
But he made his choice.
Right, that was his choice, though. Yeah. But like
like Frank Dodd, he didn't. He didn't act on it when he was first asked. So another woman died, and then he got involved, and his mom died probably needlessly because of his lack of action. He was basically just there, and he didn't get to act on it.
Could he done? I mean, I guess he could have spent more time with her, but what could he have done? I don't know.
I don't know. He couldn't have waited until like Frank Dodd was like so deep in it that he was like. I don't know. He had a responsibility to act when the sheriff first asks him to, and he doesn't, and he still doesn't affect anything himself. And in fact, he's punished for it. He gets shot for not using his power when it was most responsible.
He gets shot when he does use his power. That's kind of like there's cost to it.
So you think it's like wait, expand on that. What do you mean?
So he does do the right thing. He does find the killer, and he does go with the sheriff to get the deputy who killed who's the Castle Rock killer for these 5 years. And when he does so, he gets shot. He gets punished for using his powers.
So more so than... So the punishments that we see are like a physical toll. Every time he uses his powers, it gives him a severe headache and seems to make him physically weaker.
Right.
This one is an outward consequence of him using his power.
Yeah.
And so... I think you're right, and I think that's what turns him in. I think that's what makes him move away and turn to a hermit and swear this off entirely. He's like, "This is too dangerous." I nearly died.
Yeah.
This power is clearly dangerous. To try to change people's future. It murdered 2 people essentially. Or more. And so, that's what makes him get into the third act, where he moves away and he swears all of this off. That's a really good point. I didn't write this down and I didn't notice it, but there are a lot of characters throughout the movie who have a power that don't use it, that have a responsibility. The rich supporter, Mr. Roger Stewart, he has the responsibility to not support him.
Yep.
And
he could have potentially brought him down, or at least done something. He's a wealthy...
The editor, who could have ruined his life. He still had the power.
Yeah.
Maybe he still would have gotten killed, but in the same way, John had that power. Like, well, I might die, but this is the responsibility I have. I have to live beyond myself, and it's like it doesn't matter if I die. That kind of martyrdom that isn't arrogant and like, oh, remember me for how great I am. It's legitimate. Like, I know what I have to do, and it doesn't matter if I die.
The silent hero.
Yeah. And it's almost a surprising thing in this day and age. It's something that, like, the moment when John is speaking his letter and walking to the place with his gun, it's a like determination that is alien to me. That he's like, oh wow, he's just going to do it. He's not going to think through any other scenario. He's not going to try anything. Or maybe he thought
this was the best solution for him.
And he doesn't even think through it or talk through it with anybody. Yeah. He's just like, this is what I must do. Right. And is that a result of our society now? Or
I don't know. I think a lot about that when whenever you see a star added on the CIA agent's wall, like an agent.
What is that? There's a thing for CIA agents?
Oh yeah. Like there's this big plaque that says they served in silence, because you don't know their names, you don't know anything. You just see another star get added to the wall, and this person was doing their job to protect America. And
but it's like the unnamed soldier kind of thing.
Yeah. But it's not just unnamed, because soldiers, they're not secretive. You could tell who they are, but CIA agents, nobody knows if they're secret agents and all that.
Yeah. So do you mean to say that of course they're not doing it for the fame? Because they don't...
Right. It's like out of duty and...
Either duty to your country or to yourself. Yeah. Certainly not to God, hopefully, in the CIA, but who knows?
Yeah, so it's a lot of... They served in silence is what the big plaque says, and it's powerful.
That's really cool. Where did you hear about that?
You see it in the news whenever there's...
I had no idea. Yeah. I really... I don't follow any kind of law enforcement, be it, federal or local. I don't have a lot of faith in them, but... especially with some recent things, but power. A lot of the people in this movie have power. No more, besides John, none more than Governor Stilson. Governor Stilson has the power to not commit nuclear genocide.
Right, and he does.
But why does he do it?
Out of his own ego, or he thinks like there's some manifest destiny that he needs to do this.
That it's his destiny. That
like in the history books as... I don't know what he wants to be.
And that's what colors him as such a dangerous person who can't be reasoned with, is that like even he is throwing accountability up to a ghost of saying that like it is my destiny.
Yeah.
It was like, whatever you want to believe in, God, Ganesh, whatever it was, set this out, and this is what must happen, and nothing can stop me.
Right.
And
I think that's really cool because he thinks the world is predetermined, and then we see through the dead zone that the world can be changed.
That's fascinating in a way that everyone would only assume that unless you had this kind of second sight of knowing that preordained things are in fact far from preordained, you'd of course believe that everything. That's what religion
you may or
teaches.
may not, yeah.
Yeah, but you'd have no proof.
Right.
And so that's great. He represents an idea that like, this is my fate and it can't be changed by anybody. Certainly, it would take God himself to change it. And John represents the fact that nothing is set in stone, and people always have a choice, and always have power, and always have the responsibility to exert that power or to use that power, ideally for good, and ideally for the just like longevity of goodwill and good people. And so I guess it's like what are the things that keep a person from living outside themselves and being not to the degree that John takes it, just being a good person. Like, I'm walking around with an empty can and I know not to just toss it on the floor or into a park or something like that. I'm going to live beyond myself and wait until there's a garbage.
Way, but
and there's even like another degree there. It's like, a garbage. I have to wait until I find a recycling bin because then I'm truly living beyond. It's like there's these.
And then there's like,
levels.
I saw some other trash. I should pick it up.
That too. And then there's all these levels, and the answer is, and none of them are wrong. None of them are wrong. The fact that it doesn't stop, that's not a problem. Like, if I do this, then my neighbor's gonna get less. If I pick up my neighbor's mail, then who's getting my? It's just like this. I got to get mine, and I got to watch out for me and my families before other people get comfortable or feel anything like that. Sorry, you were saying something a second ago. I interrupted you.
What was I saying? Well, I don't know what I was saying, but here's what I'm thinking of now is if you are so selfless that you would give yourself away, where's that balance of like, I need to protect myself because no one else will, and of like, not being selfish in a negative way that you're putting yourself so far above other people's needs that you're hurting them, sort of thing.
And that's the thing is like it starts at home. It starts like with you, and you can't wait until there's like a mass invitation of people that are like, well, we're all going to watch out for each other, so you feel safe to be a good person. Like, that we're also conserving water, so you do too. Otherwise, if we're not all doing it, then it's like, why should I be conserving water when I know they're just running their sprinklers all day kind of thing? Well, I'm going to run my sprinklers, and now suddenly nothing's being done. It's this like fairness thing.
It's called the free rider principle in economics. Yeah, of like, if something is free for me, why would I limit myself, sort of thing.
Yeah. And that's how we end up with skyrocketing gas prices and droughts and all kinds of things. Yeah.
I don't know if that's called. I might have mixed up the principles, but
no, that's great. I'd love to get an economist perspective on this kind of stuff, because it's very political, and you can't look at politics without money. It's in everything. It affects everyone and everything, and every decision of everyone's life is, whether they like it or not, revolved around the mighty dollar. So that's where Roger, like, I'm trying to examine, like, what keeps these people from doing the right thing? What keeps a person from not overwatering or taking, hour-long showers or littering or things like that? It's, personal protection, like Roger Stewart, who has the money. I'm sure he would be fine if he didn't support this guy.
Yeah,
but who knows
the
where he could be.
consequences to him might not be that bad, but
but the potential, even despite all of the evil that this guy's going to do, could be huge. For me, it doesn't matter. Like, it's not going to make my community better.
It's going to make it worse.
It's going to make it worse, but it makes it better for me. And if it's worse for them, who cares? It's just my tiny circle that I'm interested in. So there's that. There's the like personal interest of you and your family. There's the power. There's the promise of more power. That like, I have the responsibility. I have the power, and maybe even the responsibility, but if I use it now, it could mean less power in the future, and it could, mean,
You
like,
can get physically hurt or something.
or I could lose money.
Right.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah.
Is like, oh, sure, I could give money to cancer research, but how does that make my stocks go up? How does that get me more islands and more pools and more richer schools for my kids?
Kids gotta have islands.
Yeah, so there's. I guess that's kind of the same. No. So is the personal power though? Is that like I don't want to sacrifice my potential. If I set up a charity now, will that mean I have less political lobbying power in the future or something? If I support this organization, there's a possibility that that will show me as too soft on crime or things like that, and then I won't be up for re-election.
Yeah.
Like all of these agendas can affect a person until they're not even operating on themselves anymore. They are now a representative of like 100 interested parties.
Yeah, like what's the optimal course to navigate to try to get the best outcome for yourself?
Like, what's something I can say that will be neutral enough to not get me in trouble, but will also please all of the people that are filling my pockets? Because if I don't...
It's like knowing your audience and saying the right things to the right people.
Yeah. When you're... Yeah.
Which is what this governor was doing. He was just going out and telling these, I assume it's like rural...
I assume, they're working class people, and he's trying
blue
to,
collar.
like, who was it? That was it McCain? No, who? There was someone running who they kept bringing. It was like Bob the plumber. Or whatever.
Joe the plumber or something like that. Right?
Yeah, who was that?
Ah, shoot, I don't.
Was that
remember.
McCain Palin, or was that I don't remember? But yeah, Bob the plumber.
Could have been Rick. What's his name?
Mitt Romney.
Mitt Romney. Yeah,
Was it Mitt Romney?
I think it might have been Mitt
Okay.
Romney. Yeah.
Yeah,
Joe the plumber, and he wasn't even a plumber. Turns out.
No, but that was the whole shtick. Was
Right.
like, he represents the working man, and he even like had his own speeches to give and things on the issue. But that's what Governor Stilson in this movie is doing. He's kind of being both. He's like, I'm the working man, and I represent you, and I'm going to make things.
I'm going to go into Washington and fix things for you.
Yeah.
Because I know you.
Yeah, which is a very grassroots thing, kind of thing, like a local governor. It happens now.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And we see like he doesn't really care about this. His political ambitions and his full ambitions is to be the president and the guy who starts this nuclear holocaust, because that's what he thinks his destiny is.
Which, in a really perverse way, is a way of kind of like giving up your own life for what you think is the greater good.
That's a good point.
Because in what world does President Stilson think that starting all-out nuclear war makes him totally safe?
Yeah, that's
unless he's going to go to a satellite or like a deep underground bunker, which is probably what would happen.
Yeah. I mean, I would assume the president would live, but what
but
would that mean?
Who's left to govern, and who else do you make money off of when that's God? So that's, I feel like that it's kind of a stretch, but the idea that he's giving up his life as he knows it for the death of others.
What he thinks should happen in the world.
There's no money to be gained in my mind. Like, Donald Trump can make all these tweets openly offending a person that historically has familially has demonstrated, interesting restraint, especially among, his cabinet. Can do that all the livelong day, and it makes no sense to me because it has no, like, if it were to actually happen, it makes no financial sense, and that's all he cares about.
At least from what we see, and I don't think
that's true. That's true. Maybe
maybe there's something.
Maybe there's something from culling the herd and getting less people on Earth that makes the few rich people that would 100% survive a horrific event like that have a lot more land to work with. However irradiated.
There's also, there's other things in money. There's like, I know Donald Trump seems to be motivated by popularity. He wants these rallies, he wants people to like him.
That too you're right. And I don't know if that's financially motivated or if it's just coming from a person obsessed with social media numbers.
It's vanity, maybe.
Yeah.
Narcissism.
Because he feels personally attacked by any kind of press. Like, he thinks it's like on the playground, people telling bad rumors about him because they're jealous of him, when it's the fucking news. And he's like, oh, these people, they're fake news, and they're being so biased. Oh my God. And it's so backwards. And the worst part is people believe him.
Right.
Is that people will always believe people like
Which
this.
is crazy, yeah.
And we know this. And like
going back to that, he's crazy enough so people will believe him, or is he a lunatic that...
Because you and I want to believe that even Hitler was a reasonable person, and so you want to believe that these people who believe in Trump and openly support him are reasonable people, and they can't all be the Joker. They can't all be, because they're not.
Yeah,
they're just
regular,
they're intelligent, stupid people. Because that's the thing is, like, stupid people can be very intelligent.
Yeah,
a stupid person can be college educated and still be incredibly stupid with regards to his own political leanings.
Ignorant would be a better...
Ignorant, yeah. That's probably better.
Yeah. There's some groupthink mentality and like a herd mentality where like, okay, all these people are supporting in my neighborhood, maybe I should follow suit.
Yeah.
There's also... I guess Trump represents hope for some of these people who lost their jobs in some ways. They're like, all right, well, I don't like what's happening now. This guy's clearly different. Maybe it's worth something.
Yeah, I would agree. I think I would extend that to its hope to return to a
someday
past,
that may
a past
or may
that
not have
never existed.
Yeah.
Or if it did, it was really backward and racist. And what they don't realize, and because of the like metaphors and flowery language that he uses of "Make America Great Again" and these things, these euphemisms that are hiding the fact that what they're talking about is regression, is removing people's rights and undoing civil liberties that have been decades or more in the works.
Even more than that, there's he's going to bring back coal jobs, which are used to be really high-paying jobs, and I can understand why someone in these communities would want those jobs, but coal is so
openly condemned.
Yeah, so environmentally dangerous. There's so many other sources of energy that are better, and we should be investing for the future, but so we're going back.
Yeah,
to
quite literally undoing. Yeah. So yeah, this episode started with talking about YouTubers, and it's expanded to the leader of the free world. But I believe that everyone on those spectrums and in between and beyond has a responsibility. The moment you sit down to create something, to put it out there, if you're doing it with an aim of promoting hate, evil, and stuff, especially towards children, then you're up there with the Joker. And I don't want that to happen to you. I don't want you to be Osama bin Laden, but I cannot wait until laws catch up with YouTube, until the same kind of regulations that keep TV from just.
I mean, to be fair, there's quite a big gap from.
I'm not saying TV is this paragon of content and that nothing on TV is manipulative. I'm just saying that government has a place. And which is it that doesn't? It's conservatives that don't like government getting into their personal creativity and things. But it's also conservatives that apparently hate Silicon Valley because Google and those are taking all of our data and things and using it for all kinds of nefarious things. But they're also not charging us for Google Photos and Gmail and all of this stuff. Like I don't know what kind of responsibility. Google obviously has a lot of power. They have a lot of our personal data and things. What kind of power do they have? What responsibility do they have to use it benevolently? I don't want Google selling my personal photos to Russia or things like that. But
I mean, Google's motto used to be, at least internally, "Don't do evil" or something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I feel like that's really important because that's what keeps Skynets from happening. You know, like. Yeah, there but for the grace of God go we, is that we're all just one crazy person, one evil company, one loudmouth, charismatic person away from all of us having to realize, like, oh God, what power do we have? I don't have psychic powers, but each of us has a power and a responsibility to use that power to talk and to
affect the world to be better.
Yes, and it starts by leading by example, and it might sound like just painful, but to lead by example means to put forth what you expect like the average person to be. You don't have to like be this perfect paragon all the time, anytime people are seeing you or not seeing you, even at home. But it's just like just taking a second to think how your actions might affect any other person. Pretend for just one moment, Mr. President, that you are not the only thing in this simulation and everything else is fake. It's real and everyone matters. Yeah. I don't know.
Yep.
I feel like we got off topic there, but I can't think of any other themes. It's the biggest theme in this movie. Maybe being, I don't know.
So yeah, we talked about the future being preordained or not. We talked about responsibility.
I guess we could talk more about like the like pathos between Sarah and John, because it's like they barely have that many scenes together, but when they do, they really connect, and they have this like unspoken like that really comes off well as this pain that they just can't get back.
Yeah, and it seems like they do like have sex for like one day.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah. That's right. She cheats on her husband. I forgot about that.
For the one night.
Yeah.
And then goes back to life as normal.
And then he dies at the very end. And so, yeah, before we wrap up here with our rating, this new thing that I like to do is what happens after this movie? What happens in the world of Castle Rock beyond what we know? That at some point Governor Stilson shoots himself.
Yeah.
What about the town? Cool what about the people?
I guess that's what's cool about this one is that we do know a little bit of what happens in the future.
We know that the world doesn't blow up from World War III at the hands of a madman. Yeah. But what happens to the town after this, like, assassin? So you read the paper the next day, and you're drinking your coffee, eating your ham and eggs, and you see that school teacher from Castle Rock who just recently, like, oh, it's the same guy who solved the Castle Rock killer case. The school teacher who got in a coma
it's an assassin.
Tried to assassinate Governor Stilson. That's all you would read. There isn't going to be the other side of the story.
And there might be a picture of Governor Stilson hiding behind the baby.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that comes out probably like the week after once they get all the story angles and everything. And after, he has a chance to blackmail some of them, but not all of them. So yeah, Stilson dies. Sonny probably gets another job being a brute or whatever. Sarah probably lives the rest of her life with her family, raising her
probably just not going to support that candidate.
No, but I wonder if she probably holds a flame for him for the rest of his life. John doesn't have any kids to leave behind. Chris probably grows up thinking that what a great guy to come into my life. He saved me. He probably believes he saved him, and probably goes the rest of his life. His dad maybe
believes him,
maybe lives the rest of his life happy. I hope he doesn't kill himself. That would leave Chris in a really shitty position. But yeah, I guess, things would pretty much just go on. It was just kind of this like really tiny insular story. It's not like Gremlins where it got national coverage or it was mostly just kept to Castle Rock. Yeah. And if anything, we see the legacy of it in the Castle Rock TV show is he's just a memory. He's a blip. He was this weird thing that happened for a couple years, this mysterious thing. But hey, Castle Rock, a bunch of mysterious things happens. There was that rabid dog. There was that creepy store, all these wild things. So yeah. That being said, let's get to the rating. On here on the Gory Days, we like to rate these movies on a scale of 1 to 5 thumbs, 1 being the worst and 5 being the best, based on a scale of whatever we want, comparing them to past movies or not. Mike, what'd you think of The Dead Zone?
Yeah, so I like this movie quite a bit. It had a good character development. A lot of characters changed. Seems like obviously Johnny changed the most. He accepted his role as the hero.
I was wondering, because in the past you've gone on record saying that you really like a horror movie with a good moral or have feelings somehow changed with you or the characters. Yeah. So I was curious how this spoke to you, because it seems like they did.
Right. So yeah, I really like that. It also has a strong theme and moral. So I'm kind of wavering between 3.5 and 4.
Nice. It's pretty high.
Yeah. And the reason I don't quite say 4 is I know there's a lot of really good films still out there, and if I move the scale, where it is.
Sure, that's up to you. Like, if you want to rate this in a vacuum, that's one option, or if you want to rate it comparatively, that's
to all films in the world. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, so I'd probably go to 3.5.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And who do you give those 3.5 thumbs to?
Oh boy.
There was no dog as far as I can remember, so I don't think I'll be giving a dew claw away.
No. I think the Doctor deserves a thumb.
He's pretty great.
He gets a nod. Sonny definitely gets a thumb.
Oh God, yeah, he's gonna need him.
Yeah. I want to give Christopher Walken a thumb.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. And half a thumb to the kid that Johnny helps.
Oh, Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah. He deserves it too.
Yeah. I gotta say, what was the budget for this film?
Oh, that's a good question.
That?
Yeah, we usually go into that. So, although critics agreed, giving The Dead Zone some of the most positive reviews of Cronenberg's career at that point, the movie didn't have the popular impact it deserved. It still made money, approximately $20 million on a budget of $10 million.
$10 million.
But the movie wasn't a hit of the same magnitude as, say, Carrie, and only made about as much money as Cujo, John Carpenter's Christine, and other smaller movies.
Yeah, so $10 million isn't that much, but it's bigger than a small movie. But still, we saw really sophisticated pyrotechnics where Christopher Walken was in bed and it was on fire too. We saw
the World War II sequence, which it's only like a
tanks
minute.
are so expensive to shoot,
and the explosions, there were big things going on there.
Right. Not to mention Christopher Walken was already kind of a well-known actor at that point, and
very recognizable face. Yeah,
Martin Sheen. So
it's a pretty great cast.
Yeah.
Sorry, I keep interrupting.
Yeah, so visually it was incredible too. We did see some of this really gory deaths. Oh, let me just, you know what? I'm going to take one thumb from someone and give it to the composer.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, because I got to say the sounds scared me more than anything. Like right in the moments where something was changing, there was this eerie sound, and that gave me a chill. And yeah, I thought that was really impactful.
Nice. Yeah. So 3.5 thumbs. Awesome. Yeah. Awesome.
How about you?
Stephen King's The Dead Zone. So my viewing experience, the triptych is a great way to break down the movie, and I feel like it was a great way to experience it. But unfortunately, it creates a disjointed film watching experience, in my opinion. It's like this weird long epic. There are periods of it where we don't know how much time passed, and it legitimately feels like it must be intentional, but like a serious just like tonal shift as it gets further along in the movie. It really, but at no point along the way is it not Johnny's story, and that's what I like about it, is that it does a great job. That said, I watched this movie over like a 4-day period. I watched I watched the first and second part, the first and second triptych, all up until he basically starts hanging out with Chris, and then I watched the parts of him hanging out with Chris, and I stopped when he was having the conversation with the doctor, expecting there to be much more movie. That was like the last 10 minutes is him talking to the doctor, deciding he's going to kill him, doing the thing, and then that's the end. Yep. And so I let it sit for like almost 4 days before watching the last 10 minutes, and I feel like that affected my viewing, so I'm going to try to keep that in mind. But this movie's really good. I was impressed. I like, as my mind was begging to see more of like the psychic and the superpowers and things like that, I was surprised to find myself engaged with the like really character parts of John dealing with this, of him missing Sarah, of him trying to restart his life with Chris and Roger and those things. And in that way, it's kind of like, I don't want to equate it to Forrest Gump, but the idea of seeing a lot of chapters of a person's life, not necessarily their entire life like we do in Forrest Gump or like Big Fish or movies like that, but I do like movies that kind of display, several chapters of a person, because that's when you really do feel a sense of growth, when you see them in one place and it isn't like, here's the big thing and now they have to be changed from it. It's just, you kind of see them grow gradually, as the movie goes. And so with that in mind, I'm going to give it 4 thumbs. 4 thumbs. I thought this was right up there with like Gremlins and those. It's a really good, it's a really tight movie. And the fact that it predicts Trump in such a creepy, cryptic way is only icing on the cakes. So yeah, I'm going to give it 4 thumbs. The thumbs I'm going to give are, I'm definitely going to give 2 to Frank Dodd, because that character in particular just stands out for me. I had a very different image in my mind, but I read Cujo at a young age, and the name of Frank Dodd popping around was always just a very scary thing, especially just the name. There's something really creepy about just, I might be personal, but yeah, just Frank Dodd, D-O-D-D, Dodd, Dad. I don't know. There's something like intrinsic to it. Stephen King's a wordsmith, so I'm sure he knows. I'd give 2 to Frank Dodd. I'd give 1 to Greg Stilson so that he can give a big thumbs up on stage and show everyone his support. And then I also want to give a thumb to Sonny, that crazy bastard who he'll probably land on his feet. I assume he won't be going to prison, and he doesn't seem like he kills himself. There's no reason to, but
he'll probably just find another guy to be goon for him.
Yeah. So this wouldn't be an episode of this wouldn't be an episode talking about the Dead Zone without a Christopher Walken off. So I got a fever. And the only prescription is more cowbell.
Play it, baby. Play it.
Play it. You do it again, I'll hit you in the face with a soldering iron. Hey, Mike, it's me, Christopher Walken.
What? I'm Christopher Walken too.
Oh, hey, Chris. I meant to say, I really loved you in Click, in that scene where you reveal yourself to be the angel of death. I really loved that moment, Christopher Walken. I really loved that scene with you in Joe Dirt, where you and David Spade are talking to each other, and you say that line about you doing that again, and you'll hit you in the head with a soldering iron.
I'll stab you in the face.
I'll stab you in the face with a soldering iron. This is Christopher Walken saying, stay scary out there.
Gory Days. The Gory Days.